Hello and welcome to the very 28th episode of your favorite Stat Check podcast host's favorite Stat Check podcast. It's time for episode 28 of Take All Comers. We got a Warhammer 40k show today talking about all sorts of brand new stuff going on. It's called Slate and a Haircut because there has been a slate and the meta has gotten itself a haircut. My gosh, the world is upside down and there is so much to talk about. I'm one of your hosts, Tyler Bortel, and I'm joined by...
Is it me next?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think it's you next.
No, I'm like 99% sure it's you.
All right. I said myself last time I went second and Tyler yelled at me. So that's me, by the way, Nicholas Olsen Johnson.
And I'm Lucas Troller, the delusional boomer who can't remember anything, apparently.
Your name's second
Incredible.
in the show, by the way.
It's been a minute, but we are back. And we are better than ever. Maybe not that part true. But we're here. We're going to talk about Warhammer, and I'm sure you're all very excited about it. As I said, we've got a slate. We've got new points. We got new missions. We got a whole new meta. We got a WTC that we're prepping for, and we're going to break it all down for you right here. But before we get into any of that goodness, and my, oh my, will there be some goodness today, I got to check in with the boys. How are we doing today, Lucas?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's getting to be summertime, which always means I get grouchy and angry. So I'm just trying to survive as best I can. The heat. But playing lots of Warhammer. Last weekend we were at the beach, which was really fun for some games and hangouts, which was an awesome time, courtesy of our boy Kim. And yeah, it was a nice little weekend to relax and recharge. So yeah, and 40k obviously has had an absolutely blistering pace recently of new releases. You wouldn't know it because we haven't had a show for a month, but it's nice to be back and talk about some of these. There's a lot of, as much as we were memeing on the Year of Chaos for a while, like things are pretty chaotic, which is cool. And some of the strongest armies in the game right now are Chaos. So I think it's a super excited time to play Warhammer because those are some of the funnest metas in my opinion. So yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying playing games, and I'm excited to get to chat with you all. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing great as well. For those who paid attention to our show for a while, they would know that I work at a school, and we're coming up on the end of the school year, which means I got a lot more free time coming up. Yeah, Slate couldn't have come at a better time. I also went to the beach with Lucas. We had a great time workshopping some new lists. I got to see some in action. I got to try some out myself. We're going to be talking about those today. Yeah, outside of that, I mean, I'm just looking forward to going out and, playing some disc golf when the sun's out and playing some Warhammer when the sun goes down. So yeah, it's going to be a good next few months here. How about yourself, Tyler? How are you doing?
Hell yeah, man. I am doing fan-freaking-tastic over here back in Andalusia. I didn't go to the beach because I live at the beach, and life's a beach over here. It's fantastic. I similarly have just finished up my a year of teaching English out here in Spain, which means that between now and WTC, I am a free freaking agent. I've been playing like 2 games a day on TTS for the last week, and it's been so much fun. Could not have been a better time for there to be a brand new Tyranids army to be playing, for GSC to be in a really fun and interesting spot. I am just drinking it all in. I definitely land a little bit of a different place than Lucas does when it comes to Chaos Power Armor. So the last several months of releases have just kind of gone right over my head, so I could not care less about what particular flavor of spiky Power Armor idiots happen to be running at me. But there's a lot of other stuff going on right now with these new nids that I'm having a lot of fun with. So I'm excited to break some of that down because, man, oh man, has there been a lot of good stuff. Since we last spoke, the WTC team has been locked in. We're super excited to be supporting the Americans again this year in the scenes. You've got our Big 8. I'm sure you've seen about it. You can check the cup elsewhere. But with that out of the way, we are on the hunt for the best 8 lists. List lock is in 4 weeks from Monday, I think. So we've got a lot to get done there. Unfortunately, that does mean that there will be some level of that stupid veil over our eyes where we can't quite say everything that comes to mind, but we got plenty of good morsels for you, I promise. I assure you that there's plenty of goodness to go around for everyone. So let's jump right into some of this goodness here. Starting off, however, before we get into any of the big picture stuff, we got to start a little bit smaller, which is that unfortunately we did not get a show in the last couple weeks. We were hoping to shout out and showcase our boy, Mr. Olson Johnson down here, who was repping the Ruffians. It's our local team up in Portland, Oregon, at a sweet little team event that turned out pretty well last time I checked. So, Nick, you want to break that down for us real quick? What do we got going on out north?
Yeah, so we didn't have enough time to really cover this one, unfortunately. Our schedules have all been pretty busy throughout the month of May. But early in May, I had the pleasure of captaining a 5-man team at this event up in Washington called Throwdown at the Campground. And it was at a campground indeed. It was a great venue. It was like a small little like summer camp that they, rented out because there's no one there, right, in May. And we got to basically sleep upstairs and then walk downstairs to the games and just play, and then get to hang out after. It was a great little cozy. I think there were 8 teams there. 8 teams there. Unfortunately, Lucas wasn't able to go because I think that was like 2 weeks after Home Nations, and so he was very exhausted. Very, completely reasonable. So we ended up going with myself playing Emperor's Children, our buddy Tanner Eber playing Warhorde Orks, which was pretty sweet. Our buddy Alex Pina playing Deathwatch. Who else did we have? We had John, who came in playing Invasion Fleet Nids. And then we had Max playing, the Regiment Guard, just normal like Index Guard. And I was playing Coterie. So we had a great time. We had some very close games into our round 2 opponents. And I think the tournament ended up being, we won our first round, got the low side of a tie second round, won our third round, and then got the high side of a tie our fourth round. So we kind of got to see a little bit of everything. And so it came down to tiebreakers, since we were 2-0-2 and the second place team was 2-0-2, but we ended up winning on tiebreakers. So it was not a repeat of the February teams event where we lost by 1 point on tiebreakers. We actually won pretty decisively. I think the first tiebreaker was like actual games won, and we had like 14 or 15 and they had like 11 and a half or something. So yeah, felt pretty good with our boys and our performance. Our teammate Alex Pina in particular, pretty much the theme of the weekend was me trying to engineer good matchups for him on his board choice, and he delivered. I don't think he scored below a 14 or below a 16 in any game, which was fantastic. Tanner did great with Warhorde Orks. We had a very scary list in the 4th round where it was up against our friend From's Stormlance plane build, and we were trying to engineer how we could pin that list, whether it attacked or defended, and we ended up throwing Orks up as first defender, knowing that if they attacked it, we could give board choice, and Tanner did that, and he got a 12-8 out of that, which was fantastic, because like most of our other lists were pretty scared of that list. EC themselves were pretty fun. I got to play 2 really fun games the first day, and 2 fun games the second day, like very fun opponents. Unfortunately, I was into Custodies twice, so both of those games were me thinking that things were going great. And my round 3 opponent made 21 4-up invulns in a row that took my 12-8 down to an immediate 10-10, which was very sad. But yeah, Emperor's Children was very fun. They're still really fun, and we'll talk about how the slate might have changed them. But yeah, that event was really cool. I know that Deep Strike Gang, local team up here in Washington, is going to be running another event at the same venue at the end of August, just like a normal GT. But it does sound like this is going to be like a yearly teams event as well. And if you are in the area, it is totally worth checking out. It's very low key, and the venue is just far enough away from everything that it's very cozy. So I had a good time.
Oh yeah, man. Glad to hear about it. Super excited to check out one of those events later on in the year next year. Seems like a really great time. Shout out to who's running that? Is it James running that?
Yeah, James Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, up there. The smaller to medium-sized TOs of the Northwest have really been stepping up their game in the past year, it seems like, and I'm really excited to see what that looks like on the ground. Shout out to all of them.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, congratulations to the Ruffians. Hopefully we will see some some similar themes coming through in our upcoming Challengers Cup run in September. That is crazily only, 3 months away, very soon. So very excited, looking forward to that. And if any of you are coming to Challengers Cup up, definitely come see the Ruffians and see if you can give us a run for our money. It's going to be a good time. But let's move on now out to covering the brand new world that we're living in. And I think we're going to start at the biggest picture and then slowly work our way in toward things that are more and more niche and specific to our particular interests. Starting off with the brand new missions. I know I've had a chance to play maybe a dozen games with them. I know each of y'all have had a couple as well. Lucas, how are you feeling about this new packet? Start, frankly, whatever you think is the most urgent. It's a lot of changes.
Yeah, there were a lot of changes. I think one thing that makes me feel like it's actually not that, like, a lot of the changes, there were a lot of them, but a lot of them felt kind of small. I don't know if you guys feel similarly, but to me, like, a lot of the kind of central primaries that we were all playing kind of feel quite similar, right? Like Lynchman is essentially unchanged, Taken Hold is essentially unchanged, Scorched Earth is essentially unchanged. Ritual is one of those fringe missions that's unchanged, other than that there's 2 more objectives in the mid board, which you don't think it's... I don't think that's...
I would hesitate to call that unchanged.
Everyone was scoring 45-45 on primary on Ritual before, and it's basically the same. So there may be 2 more.
Now it's a lot
okay, go ahead.
harder to deny primary.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like Ritual used to be like, if you were really, really good at Warhammer, you could totally just hold Ritual to 10s. But when you play it into people where maybe there was a list mismatch, or you were able to apply some early pressure in some way, right, or their list wasn't specifically designed to be super duper defensive, you could still bully people out of getting a lot of primary, especially in the early game. And suddenly, like, it's not even as big a deal to me that there are 2 extra objectives, as much as it is just that your first objective that you spawn is all the way up in your corner now, instead of in the middle. So, like, you can be in your castle fully safe an entire battle round early, and it's much harder to push people off of an objective all the way up than it is when it's halfway. You seem skeptical of this.
Yeah, I'm still just confused how the objectives that are in the middle on the midline translate to people scoring more primary.
Because
like,
this
is the quintessential standoff mission.
Totally. But the first objective that you spawn when it was 12 inches from the center objective is pretty easy to deny off your opponent for 1 turn. It's notably harder if it's 12 inches off where your expansion should be, and it's like all the way in your corner.
Okay, sure.
That's what I think the big difference is, right? The fact that there are extra objectives on the table, maybe that means that if you're playing, something very high pressure, you're going to grab a couple of extra objectives earlier on. But yeah, it's still very, very standoffish and drawish. I just think that they made it worse, not better, which is absurd to me. That would be either a conclusion of what's wrong with the mission, is that there's not enough objectives on the table and the objectives are too close to the center of the board. Seems very silly.
Yeah,
it is.
But it's still not going to get played that often. It's still very standoffish. I agree with you that, like, by and large, the primaries haven't changed a ton. Hidden Supplies as a primary now is cool and a little bit different, but it's similar-ish. But yeah, I think those are. I see your point. The primary didn't change massively, particularly for the mainline missions that we're practicing the most.
I'm personally very curious to see where Hidden Supplies ends up, if it ends up being played at a lot of events, because I think it's actually in their tournament companion several times, if I'm not mistaken, which is cool. I like playing with 6 objectives on the board. I think it creates more little pockets of fighting, which is really fun. It is a low-scoring mission, though, especially in the, like, close-range brawl meta we are in right now. It feels like, your opponent pushes you off your objectives, you push them off theirs, they push you off yours repeatedly, and then we end up looking at like 15-15 on primary. And maybe the person that goes second gets an extra 5 or a 10. Yeah, so I don't know if that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. I enjoy the mission. Like I said, I like having lots of objectives on the board, but it might end up being one of those that's like a little bit awkward because no one really scores that many points.
And then did Terraform get a slight change too, right? To the action?
Terraform got a huge change. It's a totally different mission now. Plays very differently than it used to. It's gone from, it used to be that terraforming was a one and done thing, and you were just scoring 2 points of extra primary every turn, to now you can even terraform on turn 1 if you want, but you can't start scoring it until the command phases of either player on turn 2. And when you do score, it's 1 point on each player's turn. And then you can terraform to sort of overtake someone else's terraform. So they kind of go back and forth in smaller increments. I think it's a way more dynamic and interesting mission now on a like moment by moment basis. I think the macro strategy of it is a little bit less interesting, admittedly. I really enjoyed the push pull of, am I going to fight for early terraforms or am I going to fight for late terraforms? I thought that was maybe from a game theory perspective a little bit less solvable, whereas in this instance it's almost always just like, can I get extra units to do actions in these places all the time, which maybe shifts your list design a little bit more. It's just a different mission, frankly. I think they probably could have called it something else entirely, and I wouldn't have thought that this was just Terraform again, because it's the tempo is very different. But it's cool.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I do feel like, I don't know if you guys have felt this way, but I've certainly felt a lot less draw to include action units in my lists in this new packet. I think there's one less action secondary in the tactical deck, and there's also one more card in general. So it's kind of like a 2-card difference. Just makes it a little bit less, like, you know, including your 2x3 Chaos Bikers, an extra squad of cultists, in addition to your Cypher and Rhinos, is like, okay, this is getting a little redundant. Terraform, I feel like, is the one mission that kind of throws a wrench in that plan. If you're expecting to play Terraform at your local events, that's where you might want to make sure that you include an extra 1 to 2 units of just dedicated action doers to sit there and press the button every turn, even if it's a very cheap unit.
Yeah, let's put Terraform and Purge in the same packet, dude.
Fuck off. Fuck right
TOs.
off. Was there any change to Purge? I didn't see it.
No.
Of course not.
It's the worst. It's my least favorite thing about the packet. It's been the worst mission. It's still the worst mission. It's awful.
Quick look at the packet too. Ritual's not even in any of the recommended ones. It just
let's go
0 appearances.
Oh,
that's great.
Yeah, so they're like, they don't even want you to play. Hilarious that they don't want you to play Ritual, and they're like, go play Purge in 3 recommended layouts. Although one's Dawn, so it's 2 recommended layouts.
True.
Yeah. Supply drop got changed too, where the last objective can never.
It can only be the middle.
Can never leave, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that game usually ended up. I mean, yeah, the best games on supply drop are when it was a brawl in the middle. The ones that sucked are when your opponent's expansion stuck around. You're like, well, okay, GG, I guess, dude.
Yeah, your opponent's expansion sticks. Yours leaves first. You're like, all right, man. Well, we'll have some fun, I guess.
Other than that, it's all the same. Yeah.
How much have you guys played on the new layouts? I don't know if this is too quick a switch from the primary, but I was super impressed with the new layout 7 and 8.
Yes.
What is layout 7 and 8? I don't play this.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll talk about how the rest of the world's playing the game real quick. No. So yeah, people like complain because 7 and 8 were like very much like stand around and just stare at each other. 8 had kind of like that weird firing lane, like diagonally through the middle. You had like those 2. The new 8 is a little, I guess there's still like these kind of like very, very tight firing lanes. But there's some fun staging in the middle. But the cool part about that staging is there's no walls. One of my least favorite things about GW terrain is wall blocking. It just fundamentally changes how armies that rely upon like charging infantry work compared to like WTC terrain. And so this being like a cool, yes, you can stage closer to me, but like I can just walk over there and hit you is pretty cool. I played a lot of 7 and 8 at the beach, and I really liked them. They felt a lot more dynamic and a lot less just stand around and stare at each other.
Me too. I think it's layout 7 that has like the 2 4x6s just right next to each other as one of like your midfield staging pieces is really fun because it's not only it's layout 8. Yeah, it's not only easier to attack from, but it's easier to be attacked as well. So it's a little bit more of like a,
risky.
It's riskier. That's the right word I was looking for. Which I think just adds to the excitement of it all. I also agree that 1-inch blocking is just really dumb, and it doesn't really work on those pieces nearly as well. So that's exciting to me.
One thing about 7 as well that was kind of cool is those, what is it, they 5x10s or something? They're like forward staging ruin on layout 7 that used to go all the way to the edge of the board has now been shifted up 3 inches. So there's like these lanes where things can get around and break through your castle a little bit more, or like there's kind of these like long firing lanes down the side. It gets pretty interesting. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed that I guess what we got didn't get that many changes to the layouts. People didn't really like 7 and 8, and we got changes to those, which was cool. But like 2 and 4 and 5 and 6 kind of still have some issues.
Yeah. 4 still using by default the walls with the wrong chirality is mind blowing to me.
Yeah,
But that's still like I
think
played on layout 4 the other day. I had played on GW
6
in
does that too,
a long time.
actually.
6 does that
Absolutely
in
abhorrent.
with one of the like the middlemost ruin, the 5x10, and I legitimately think 6 is a fine layout if you just switch the direction of that one. And then
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
4 would probably be a fine layout if you switch the direction too. You know, that's what our TO up here, John, does.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
He
it's
goes-
great. We play it like two rounds of every GT, and it's really fun.
He just puts that in his packet. He's like, by the way, these are the changes I'm making to 4 and 6, so we're not just playing the same 3 maps over and over. So yeah. But 5 is
Very
still
cool.
like, I look at that and I'm like, what the heck are you supposed to do on this board, dude? I guess 5 is
Play
like
Dawn of War, so
It's like
War,
just for
not-
Dawn of War. Yeah, it's not real.
Yeah. So
Um,
you.
Yeah, sweet. So yeah, big thumbs up for map changes. Glad they happened. Always want more, but like, you know, good things that happened. I don't think that we're gonna see nearly as polarized of situations as we did like with Steve and his world leaders on table 8 at Champs Cup last year.
it was definitely a step
Just,
in the right direction.
Some more balanced stuff. Yeah, great. I think that brings us to by far or the most controversial change in these new missions. How are you guys feeling about challenger cards?
Who wants to go first? You guys have played more than I have, so you could probably speak to it more.
Yeah, Lucas, what do you got?
So, personally, my experience and opinion is colored by the fact that I haven't had one of those moments that everyone says, like I perfectly move blocked my opponent, they drew walk through models, I instantly lose the game. I perfectly staged the right distance so my opponent can't charge me. They draw a plus D6 inch move, they roll a 6, and they instantly kill me. I haven't had any of those moments happen yet. So they haven't felt like that big of a deal to me. My biggest gripe is just how easy the points are to score. I feel like on 7 or 8 of the 9 cards is basically just like 3 points for playing Warhammer. Which is a little dumb. Like that's the fun of the tactical deck to me is like, oh, now you have to go out of your way to do something. Maybe you have to change up your game plan to do X, and now you're more incentivized to do Y, where otherwise you might not have wanted to. And these challenger cards are just like, just score extra points, which is just a little bit boring to me. So I honestly haven't had my socks rocked by these guys yet, or whatever the hell the expression is. They felt fine. They felt a little bit bland, but one of these days, my world leader opponent's gonna move an extra 6 on me, and then I'll think they're the worst thing in the world, I guess. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I had that experience happen where suddenly when I was playing against Harry, his Marines were suddenly 6 inches closer than they were supposed to be, and I lost the game because of it. And I was like, well, that's very annoying. But also, like, that honestly didn't even feel like the worst thing in the world to me because I think I played that game not ideal in the first place. I just basically got punished for larger structural mistakes more that way. What more pisses me off is just how easy it is to facilitate situations where you're getting them and you absolutely shouldn't be. So, for example, if you play fixed secondaries because your opponent gives stuff up, holy shit, you get 12 free points, right? I have played some coaching games both with and against a host of Ascension GSC with Cole Assassinate. And it's like, all right, well, I took Cole Assassinate, so I guess I just get free. I played with host into into 6 bigs to see what that was like. I was like, all right, well, I'm just this is Chaos Knights. I'm just gonna take Assassinate and bring it down because fix bring it down is still silly. Cool. I don't score any points turn 1 because I went first and you hid behind walls. You scored 6 points. That's a free 3 points for me. Next turn, I kill 1. I'm up to 8. You get points. I get another free 3 points. Okay, cool. Turn and 3 rolls around and I table you. Great. I get my 40 secondary. And like I was at a small primary differential because they can go into either category. And it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. I got 99 points anyway, despite only scoring out of 50, only scoring like 43 primary. Like that's a dip just out of nowhere while smashing. I hate that. Makes no sense to me.
Think about that because fixed has been just out of the meta for so long, right? We haven't considered it. Because tactical.
It's a very real reason to think about taking fixed.
There's some stuff with tactical going second. You can kind of engineer. Well, I won't score this
Totally.
card, so going into the next round, I'm behind by 6. But that's less big than what you're saying, where you're like, I'm going to be down by 20 until I start fighting you. Anyways, I'll get 2 or 3 free strats /9 points. Yeah, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
That's
It's also just a big push on primary going second as well. If you're like, hey man, I'm going to sit down 6 points every battle round, that's totally fine. And then I'm going to score 15 bottom 5 and call it a day. Like suddenly, if your opponent was like, all right, well, I'm able to push you down by keeping you down 10 primary, or you like, then I still win the game. Like, well, actually, I'm down 10, but I got my 15, and then I actually got 6 extra points. I actually win. Sorry.
That is cringe as
Shouldn't
fuck.
be allowed to take them with fixed.
Yeah,
that does sound like a little too crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it's like a random deck. Yeah, and that's wild.
Yeah.
My opinion on them is I haven't really encountered them that often yet.
Totally.
I've been playing very close games with people, and so when I've seen them, it's kind of been what Lucas says, where they're like, I got 3 points, and I'm like, okay, cool. But I also haven't played this at a team event yet. Like, it does sound very annoying at a team event where you're like, oh, let's go, dude. I'm a 14-8. And then over the course of the game, you guys are like, 14-6. Wow, I can't do math. They're going to be like, actually, it's a 12-8 because I got like 9 points over the course of the game just for being behind,
Yeah.
It seems, especially for like some of those armies out there that are just like points denial armies, right? Like my Votan, where it's like, if I play a great game, I get a 12-8 because I've denied your primary, your expansion 3 times. Well, it's actually, instead of creating 15 points of differential, that's only created 6, right? Because you got 9 points, maybe. That's kind of silly. Yeah. Now, that said, I do think they're a lot better than pre-nerf secret missions. I think that meta was toxic.
Yep. Oh, shut the fuck up, Hypercrypt.
I thought they were toxic as shit. I agree. But I really liked that you could plan them because they were brutally telegraphed. Now, was I playing the army that was far and away the best at them and it was stupid as shit? Absolutely. It was dumb. They should not have existed. But when I played against them, when I was not playing with them, when I was playing NIDS, when I was playing Ing GSC, when I was playing AdMech, and it was like, oh, okay, cool. I need to be aware of this, that, the other thing. I need to make sure that your warlord is not here. I need to make sure that I am holding this down all the way to the end game. I need to make sure that my battle line unit is over there and your battle line unit is dead. Like, check. Cool, seal the deal. Whenever you got that right, that felt so good to have all those things considered. And there's just nothing you can do about make sure your opponent doesn't have any units outside of 15 of any of their other units.
Yeah.
Make sure your opponent isn't both in your deployment. So yeah, like
I secret missions were fine if you were playing Gladius Space Marines versus Gladius Space Marines. Right? Just like the most default dance Warhammer imaginable. But as soon as you consider GSC or Hypercrypt or Index T-Suns or list off the other litany of dumb, like I automatically score 35 points on bottom of 2. Please let me go second. Like
bottom
it's
5,
so fucking crazy.
I almost lost a game to T-Suns with Warpaint, like nerfed Index T-Suns back in January. He's like, I don't see any way I get out of this, man. You're smashing me on primary on Linchpin. I'm just gonna go for a secret mission. And I'm like, it's the Magnus one. He's like, yeah. And then Magnus fucking rolls a bunch of saves, and then I'm like, I'm gonna lose the game right now. This is so dumb.
It's crazy how secret that was.
Yeah, I was like a 15-5, and it became a 12-8, but it would have been an 11-9 in his favor if Magnus didn't die. Top of 5 my turn.
Yep. Yeah. I think I also appreciated the risk reward element of that, of the like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I didn't get this right. Particularly with the nerfs. The nerfs made it much
The
better.
nerf secret missions were fine. But it's like you look at gambits, which were unplayable. You looked at pre-nerf secret missions, which were insane, and nerf secret missions were like very niche okay. And now you get to this where it's like everyone has access to it, but it does create these situations like what you were saying. That's a crazy interaction fixed with these. Seems a little broken. I think the way it should be played and the way they probably meant it to be played is it's like you play it with the tactical deck. It's like it's very much also like marketed towards people who are just like getting into the game or like who are just kind of playing the game because it makes you feel better to play a close game, right? Those games you lose by like 5 or 6 points, you're like, damn, good game, dude. And like that deck helps that feel for like the majority of players who play this game. But yeah, it also like some people who know how to abuse it at the higher level. It creates some goofy interactions, and I think we definitely haven't seen all of them yet.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of being like a 14-year-old playing Warhammer and like getting my ass beat and being like, oh man, my moral victory. If I can just get over there and kill that guy, I'll feel great. And to be like, hey, here's a little thing I can do. I got points. Hell yeah.
It gives you a little bit of hope every turn.
Yeah.
Which for like a lot of people, that's all they're trying to do. Like if you look at a GW event, they're like, we just want you to go play 8 games. We want you to go play however many rounds you can play. We just want to give you a reason to keep playing. So in that regard, thumbs up. Competitive regard, we'll see.
So compared to secret missions and gambits on launch, like, is this the best of the 3? Have they been making improvements every time?
Like you mean most balanced?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably, right?
Definitely. It's undoubtedly a step in the right direction. If they're going to have a mechanic like this, I would rather this than launch gambits or launch secret missions. Because launch gambits were stupid and launch secret missions were stupid. And these are, that's not very balanced.
I told Anthony I threw my gambit deck away and he laughed at me, dude. I'm like, when have you ever played one, man? He's like, all right, fair.
Yeah. I think, how many secret missions do you guys think you've accomplished?
I didn't play during that meta, actually.
All the time? I did it like at least 30 times.
Yeah.
I may have only had like 2. Tyler, you know which one.
2? And one of them is at WTC. That's crazy, dude. That was one of the biggest ball
you've only
plays
done
I
it
think
twice,
I've
or
ever
you've
seen
only
someone
accomplished
do.
it twice?
I think I've only... I've certainly done it more than twice.
Okay. But you've only successfully accomplished it twice.
I guess.
There you go, dude.
Yeah.
Maybe battle line and deployment zone gamer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had some pretty great secret mission moments. My best secret mission moment is by far was beating Trimble at Charity Hammer in the Blunderdome RTT or GT because it was 5 rounds. When I turned 4. Yeah, with the Towless, with the Tide Wall, where I ran my Breachers on turn 4 into the Tide Wall, and the Tide Wall ran up, charged, and swung all the way around to sling into his DZ, and then turn 5 hopped out, advanced, and because my Ethereal moves fast enough on disc, toes into his DZ, for button, and declares victory. Oh my god!
Holy shit!
How does it feel to consolidate a Tide Wall on drone defense line or whatever, dude?
It's so good, dude. You're like, oh man, better go ahead and console all 3. 1, 2, 3. Donk. Get out on the other side.
Obliterates half the border terrain.
Right.
Man, if with the freeze I have right now, if I weren't so tied into playing WTC, like if these Tau changes were actually good, which I don't think they are, I would absolutely be trying to make the Tide Wall work. They're good.
They make the army feel so much better to play, dude. I'll tell you that right now.
Glad to hear that. Interesting. Maybe we'll go look into that. I have too much to play right now, but someday I'll come back to the Tide Wall. Love that thing. But yeah, so Challenger cards, maybe not the best thing in the world. I will also say they're like wildly incongruous how easy these things are to accomplish when you're winning versus when you're losing. Yeah. Some of the ones when you're losing and you're like, oh man, I'm getting my butt kicked. And it's like, well, get a point for every objective you hold. And I'm like, well, take a point, fair enough. Hold my home field. And then they're like, yeah, just be everywhere on the table. And I'm like, well, no, we're not going to do that. So sometimes they work out well, sometimes they don't. So I appreciate that they're not like a guaranteed strategy, right? If you're going to do, especially the like choose to be lower, like I doubt if they haven't done the thing where I've been like, could score a point. Nope, discard both secondaries because my opponent scored 6, top 1. I don't need 2 points. I'll take a challenger card instead. Oh, this is ass. Damn it. I appreciate you can get punished for that.
One thing that I think is nice is the new, and we can pivot here if you guys are ready into talking about secondaries a little bit. But I really like the change they've made to secondaries wholesale, where they've said if you scored a card, you must score those points. There's no more. Oh, I discard this for a CP. I discard it so I don't score and get a challenger card. Like, no, if you're in 2 table quarters, sorry, motherfucker, you get 1 point on engage and you don't get a challenger card. I really like that change, to be honest.
I really like that change. I really don't like the other change they made, where you can discard cards on your opponent's turn.
Yes, that is.
Lucas and I were talking about
cringe
this the other
change.
day.
Yes, agreed.
The ability to just be like, all right, cool. Well, I got my CP already because I've got a CP generator on the table, or I got some other way. Or I discard 1 and get CP for that, but I've got this other card, so no downside to holding on to sabotage. Might as well try. Oh, you stopped me. Bummer. Like, stop it. No, this was like the really cool. Like they took things like recover assets out of being takes a turn because they wanted to make those things a little bit less punishing, and then they also got rid of the downside of them. And that also is another huge reason that going second is buffed in challenger cards, is that you can sit on your takes a turn secondaries and then draw challenger cards and then get your points. You're down 6, except that you're actually going to score 3 points on defend and 3 points on sabotage, and you're actually down 0.
Yep.
Very silly. But
I loved especially in very close games, like in the 8 to 12 range. I loved the minigame of like, how can I ingress creatively or attack this one particular part of the board, or put pressure on my opponent's like safe corner where they're doing recover and sabotage to try to like stick them with a 3 points that they didn't get. I thought that was so much fun, and creating those little moments of tension was so cool.
By far the best is defend stronghold.
Yeah.
Because your opponent drawing defend stronghold is the new you drawing capture enemy outpost, where you're like, all right, game on, you've placed your bet. And particularly because they get to discard it after you've ingressed, right? So you get to say, hey, I'm going for it. And they're like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle this or not. If I keep it and you take it, it's -5 primary, -3 secondary. Like, that's going to be sketchy. I realize that I'm being very loud for 2 o'clock in the morning. I should lower my voice. But I love that interaction. And that now it's like, well, I just hold on to it because it's free. Why not? Oh, you took my home field. Bummer. Chucking the card. Anyway.
Yeah. That's another one of those changes that I feel like was kind of more catered towards just making the game more accessible, but is like it loses the risk reward element of the deck, which was very exciting.
Yeah. I was like, you could still discard it for a CP anyway. Like, why do we need to discard it for free?
Yeah, if you're not
let me hold assassinate if you come to me,
ultra competitive player, right, and you can't figure out to do sabotage in a safe position, sorry, you're a moron.
Yeah.
It did happen in my game against Folger yesterday. He spent like 8 minutes trying to figure out where he could sabotage, and he realized he freaking couldn't. And I was like, yes.
Incredible.
Oh my gosh, tunnel snakes, baby. Yeah, very funny. But yeah, so those thumbs down.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Secondary deck in general.
Oh,
one more card.
I love that card. I love that card so much.
Stand in the middle
Me
one.
too, brother.
Yes, that is the coolest card. This is I thought Lucas loves it. I assume that I know why, because this is the most fun thing to counterplay.
Or something.
Yeah, where you want to have.
You're talking about Display of Might.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about Tempting Target.
Tempting Target is a classic.
Yeah.
We've espoused on the show how much we love Tempting Target all the time. I love that it's back. It's as much fun as ever. It's so cool to think about.
It's way more fun than Marked for Death.
True.
Which is still here for some reason.
It got better.
You get to pick your gamma.
It got better.
It
did. It unequivocally got better. Right?
No, it
It's
did.
still not fantastic, but it got better. But yeah, Tempting's fantastic, and I loved I love display
Display
of
might.
like
As a Tyranids player, the amount of fun that I have when I'm like, all right, just gonna go ahead and spawn a score mine. Gonna double check that it's wholly within no man's land while screening. No reason. It's it's so much fun. You'd be like, oh man, bummer. I thought about this and you didn't. And I have 4 units wholly within no man's land, and you only have 3 that can get there right now. Sorry. It's just, you feel so smart when it works. And then when your opponent, by contrast, when you flip it, your opponent's like, all right, sweet. And you're like, that rhino is about a half inch too far back, brother. Go into your DZ. Free 5 points. Thank you very much. Or is it 4? 5? I don't remember if it's 4 or 5.
4.
4? Yeah.
A lot of them are like 3 and 4 now.
Yeah.
Extend got changed from 5 to 4, which is cool.
Yes.
Cleanse got buffed.
Yes.
Cleanse is 5.
Absolutely needed to
which
happen.
I think
Cleanse
is awesome.
2-5 is so much better. Big thumbs up for that. That was a great change. What else changed? The assassinate change in fixed is great. It's way more fun as a GSC player.
Bring
To
it
be
down
like,
for
hey,
tactical.
you get a couple points. Bring it down for tactical.
It's just 4 points for killing 1 monster of you.
I love it. I
which is
love it.
cool.
Same with Cole no longer stacking when you draw it.
Yeah.
Like oh no, my opponent drew the funny card on turn 3.
Yeah, I guess this.
I guess I give up 20 points right now. Like,
Yeah, that for
Very
Bring
silly.
It Down was also amazing. Like I lost so many differential eliminations because my opponent ripped Bring It Down on turn 3 and scored 12 points.
I think Bring It Down could have stuck around with the differences, and it was just for the first vehicle you kill, or just for the vehicle you kill that is the biggest. I feel kind of bad when I'm like, oh, I drew Bring It Down, and I'm like, oh, I could certainly go after your Silent King, or I could just kill your Reanimator. Okay, cool, that's 4 points either way,
I
I
think that's
guess.
fine, dude. There's too many cheap holes. You want to spam cheap hole? Give me 4 points. Thank you.
Yep.
No, I want more points. I'm just saying.
Ow,
I want to get rewarded for ripping
fix.
a big night down.
Fix
But
it.
I think it's a small thing. It's definitely better than it was.
Is it vehicle unit or vehicle
Unquestionably.
model?
It's unit
Yeah,
now.
surely.
Okay, so you don't get
yeah.
points for popping the king's pylons anymore. Nice.
No. Yeah, that'd be silly. But yes, that's
How
a
do
cool
we-
change. What else changed?
No more containment.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
It's
All
a
right,
bit of a
Good
bummer,
change.
but like that one was crazy points.
It was.
Containment should have been like a
The-
2-5 in the old pack. It being 6 was just like, or 3-3 was like, okay.
Yeah, the particularly with the ability to score it off of your table edge on most missions was like, okay. Secondary corner was very
Let me
stupid,
put
right?
2 guys
And
in the
it's
corner.
it's still solid, right? You still have access to cleanse, you still have access to recover, you still have access as to sabotage, you still have access. Now it's a nice thing for display of might. Yeah. How do you guys feel about the recover change?
That one's the one that happens immediately, right?
It happens immediately, and they took a point off of the
I
3
think that's completely reasonable because you're committing 2+ units. It's just like cleanse now. The fact that your opponent could pop 1 unit and deny all the points was pretty silly. I guess unless you were doing it in 3 places, but like, let's be real, that's not happening until it's bottom 5.
I functionally in the old packet thought of recover assets as sabotage in 98% of scenarios.
That's fair.
Right? It was whatever unit was on my home field, and then the one moron I put in my secondary corner who sits there for a turn. Now they're a little bit different. I mean, recover is noticeably easier than sabotage. Secondary corner is also like not dead, but it's a lot weaker, right? Recover you can do anywhere and completes immediately. Sabotage is the one secondary you kind of want to be in the corner for, and containment's gone. So a little bit less reward for castling up in the corner.
Admittedly, containment is gone, but baby containment, the challenger card is around now. So you do have to keep that one in mind potentially.
That is true. Yes.
I've had that come up many times.
I have not seen that one yet, so that is good to remember. Yeah, I mean, I think overall containment going away was fine. I liked the periphery as like an important part of the map, just because it's so much of the, I can't think of the right word.
Action,
But
fighting.
so much of the action in 40k happens in the middle that, like, yeah, you have to pay attention to the periphery. It was kind of cool. But I agree that's 3-6 was just way too much reward for so little risk. And maybe if it was something that took an entire turn to complete, That'd be kind of cool, but it just wasn't. So probably for the
I
best.
think
that it's
there was a little too much 6 in the game as far as secondaries were concerned. I think I had, particularly for a team's perspective, I just had too many games in Prime Nexus where I'd be like, all right, sweet, I'm looking at a 13, I'm looking at a 12, I'm looking at a 14, and then it's like, my opponent drew containment, sabotage, bottom 5. Cool, they got 12 points. I got 11. Bummer. So kind of up and down that gets tamped down, and then challenger cards. Yeah. I will say I would really like to see something done to sabotage where if it's completed at the end of the game, it's 1 fewer point or 2 fewer points, because I drew sabotage turn 5 and thus I walk into your DZ without reprise and get 6 points. Still annoys me. But it's not the biggest deal right now. But yeah, I think overall these missions, they're not, unequivocally a step in the right direction. They're not unilaterally improvements. But overall, all chapter approved is better than Pariah, I think. Feels like a pretty comfortable thing to say, and I'm looking forward to playing it a bunch more. I appreciate also that it's a subtle but significant change as we go into WTC season, as opposed to some complete rework from the ground up.
Going from Leviathan to Pariah.
Yeah, especially with like 7
edition.
new armies. Because we like.
Figuring out challenger cards is less stressful than figuring out secret missions, for sure. So.
Yeah.
And also the death of Fixed.
Yeah.
Fixed was kind of on its way out, I guess, but yeah, it's forever ago. But yeah.
Man. So, actually, I'm not going to say that.
Cleanse Homer. See you later.
Yeah, oh no, you knew exactly what I was going to say. God damn it. All right, I get a 9 for doing nothing.
Yeah, my war track tiptoes into your
The
DC.
tip of my tusk deploys a homer. El Clásico.
Oh my gosh. All right. Cool. So that about covers just the new missions. Let's move on to some of the other new stuff. We have like 7 new armies, right?
Yes.
Like T-Suns are out now, Death Guard are out now.
World Leaders.
Chaos Knights are out now. World Leaders are out now. Nids just got a new detachment that really changes how they operate. Tau just got a new detachment that changes how they operate. People are still adjusting the EC, but I don't think that they're new anymore.
That's the crazy thing, is they still are, right? Like that codex came out
They came about end of April.
2 months ago, less than 2 months
Not
ago.
even, yeah, like a month and
Like 6
Almost-
weeks ago.
almost
Yeah.
2 months ago.
The pace
Yeah.
of these releases, in
Oh,
my
Space
opinion,
Wolves.
is
Yep, they're coming out.
ludicrous. It's ludicrous, and for me personally, I mean, if you don't feel this way, feel free to tune me out. But I find it's detracting from my enjoyment of the game, at least a little bit. Like, I want to spend my time playing the same list a bunch and seeing what all of these other codexes have to offer. And when there's 3 new codexes in the time it takes me to play 3 fucking games, I can't do that. There's been like 30 detachments released in the last 2 months. That is insane. No one plays that much Warhammer. Like, I don't know. Maybe if I was less invested, I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna go see how well I do with my Berserker Warband list. But like, I want to learn this and I want to know what I'm playing against, and I can't know what I'm playing against because who the hell knows what I'm gonna be facing? One of Death Guard's 7 detachments, or one of fucking Space Wolves' 12 detachments that they have access to, or whatever. Like, this is insane. This is
3.
ridiculous, man.
Well,
Well,
also
and the 7 or 8 that
7
are
or
in
8
Codex
Marine
Space
boats.
Wolves.
Oh, yeah, valid. Never mind.
They have their main detachment actually in the Marine boat.
Stormlands. Yeah, of course. The famous
True.
White Scars. Definitely not. Anyway. Yeah, no, I agree. Things have been coming out really. I think part of it, though, is the FOMO box release schedule, right? That like half of these things, like we're counting EC and Space Wolves both being as recent releases when EC has been out for like 3 months and Space Wolves doesn't come out for another month, right? Like, it's all just very silly like how these things end up in people's hands. And if you're just testing stuff based on what's available, there's a ton of stuff to test. It's just a lot of moving pieces.
Yep.
Yeah, so a lot. So let's try to dive into some of these things. that are particularly interesting to people in general. Nick, what is the thing in the new 40K sphere right now that you are the most excited about?
The new Dark Angels detachment, dude.
Hell yeah, dude! I literally haven't read it. Tell me about that shit. What's going on?
It's goofy. Yeah, so talking about the new detachments, this is like a small little aside. It is cool that they're releasing new detachments. Like, I think that they saw the success of Grotmus and they're like, wow, people love this. We can do this at like literally zero costs and keep people excited about the game. And it is exciting. Like, the thing that is a little annoying is it's like when you have something like the Dark Angels book, which has 3 detachments that are all terrible. It'd be a little nice to see them go and buff those or tweak them to make them playable. But instead, they're like, nah, here's a 4th one that's playable. Ignore those other 3. And the 4th one's really cool. So, like, I'm cool with that. But yeah, maybe it'd be nice to go back and, update your detachments that no one's playing. This one's really cool, though. So it's called Wrath of the Rock. It incentivizes playing Deathwing and Ravenwing and normal guys. But it doesn't incentivize playing vehicles, which makes it a bit different from Gladius, right? Where you're seeing double Vindicator, double Ballistus in like every Gladius list. Its buff, detachment ability, is if your opponent's strength is greater than your toughness, -1 to wound for infantry and mounted only. Pretty cool. So it kind of harkens back to like the Dark Angels being like these tough guys that can stand around. And it's a lot less toxic than the, actual transhuman back that they had in 9th. Now it is functionally mini transhuman all the time and sometimes transhuman.
Your mic is super
mic
static.
is kind of crazy.
Oh, sorry.
So that's like right off the bat what you get. So it really incentivizes you playing infantry and mounted units that are probably have an invul. So like your Terminators, which is cool, your bikes, which is cool, ICC, like led by Azrael. You've got Blade Guard vets. So like you got a lot of cool options. The strats that are really fun. There is one strat that increases your output. It is +2 strength for ranged weapons equipped by infantry or mounted. So all of a sudden you hit these really cool breakpoints where all of your plasma are now strength 10. If you're playing Eradicators, your melta goes to strength 11. If you're playing Stern Guard, you can get up to like strength 6 bolters, strength 7 heavy bolters. There's like a lot of really cool options there, which is fun. There's also a 1 CP advanced shoot and charge, which is, cool. You don't get the full army wide like Gladius, because that's kind of the one thing is when playtesting any new Marines detachment, you have to go, but would this be better as Gladius? Because Gladius has like so much flexibility. And so you kind of have to go, okay, let me just not make a worse Gladius list. Let me make a list that leans into the strengths of this detachment that makes it unique from that. Still having access to 1 CP advanced and charge is really nice for an army that is a detachment that's trying to incentivize you to play guys shuffling around 5 or 6 inches a turn. It does also give you fallback shoot and charge if you're Ravenwing. So that's another kind of cool little reason to play Ravenwing units. Other attachments that are cool, you got AOC or stratagem. Sorry, you got AOC, which you always have. You have a very niche 2 CP stratagem, which is when you destroy your Oaths unit, you pick another unit that is visible and within 12 inches of a character unit, and you can 2 CP Oaths that unit. I've played like a few games and witnessed a bunch of games of this detachment so far. I've seen the stratagem used once, but it is a very nice tool to have in your back pocket when you need to like shoot something with a shooting unit and then lay up for your melee unit. It reminds me a lot of the old a long list warlord trait from back in 9th edition Botan, and that's very fun. So yeah.
That is so much more reasonable than Gilliman. Oh my gosh.
And it's 2 CP.
What a very cool thematic and very reasonably costed ability to utilize your army rule in a fun and different way that has obvious hoops to jump through.
Yeah, let me think.
It's also like it's cool on Dark Angels, which is an army that likes having Oath, but doesn't like greedily devour it like Ultramarines, right? Because like all of their melee guys tend to hit on 2s, sometimes ICC hit on 3s. And like if you're running Eradicators, they already have hit rolls into their intended target. Maybe you can make some use of it on like Inceptors or something like that. But like this isn't a strat that, you're slam dunking every single turn, like Nick said, right?
Yeah.
The Black Legion is the same stratagem and it's used all the time because hit rolls with sustained is insane. But Dark Angels doesn't need it as much. It's still decent.
Yeah. A fun thing with Dark Angels, you can also play a bike unit led by a character, blasting the smithereens with Oath, and then 2 CP re-Oath the thing you're about to charge. That's very cool.
That is pretty
The
cool.
bikes are very clunky, but they're very fun. And they are a lot tankier in this detachment because they're -1 to wound most of the time. The last two stratagems are very cool, Tyler. So one of them, it's pretty niche. It's in either player's command phase. You pick a unit of yours that is in combat, and you give it +1 OC. So now we've solved like the Deathwing Knight issue, which is we love extended combats. We hate getting tagged by Rhino and you taking primary. What if you tag with Rhino and now I'm OC 10? Hell yeah, dude. There's like a weird little side part of it, which is like if you're not Deathwing or Ravenwing or a vehicle, you get +1 to hit as well. And I'm like, that's never coming up. You might as well just Tanner was reading that and he's like, how do we engineer +1 to hit on our guys? I'm like, brother, this is a +1 OC strat and extended combat stratagem. Ignore the second part. Yeah. For some reason, the Lion is not Deathwing. So if that doesn't exclude monsters, you could give him +1 to hit, but whatever. This is a +1 OC stratagem, which is quite good. And the last stratagem is the coolest part of the detachment, in my opinion. It is 1 CP at the end of your opponent's charge phase. If they are within 3 inches of one of your units, you may charge them. If you have the Deathwing keyword, you may charge them if they're within 6 inches of you. So now, if you have a Deathwing unit on an objective, just even a little bit, like not a little, but like decently on the objective, it is impossible for people to steal the objective from you. Sort of. They have to engineer like a lot of, they can't just put one unit and go, pass. You'll be like, well, I charge you with my Deathwing Knights now, or I charge you with my ICC now. Interestingly enough, the Lion, as we just said, doesn't have the Deathwing keyword, so he can only use this within 3 inches, but like he's on a fat 60. He can just sit on the middle of an objective and be like, come here, dude. So you have that for 1 CP on top of Heroic in an army of, if you're playing the Lion fights first, you can always slot in a Judiciary who's fights first. So this list is very good at just shoving a ton of like T4, T5, 4 up invul in front of people, going, it's all -1 to wound, probably. And if you try to charge me, I'm heroicing you, or if you end near me and don't kill me, I'm pouncing on you. It's quite cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. The Lion also got some fantastic changes. I will preface this with Dark Angels are kind of my like guilty pleasure army. They were the army that got me really excited about Warhammer again back in November of last year. They are an army that I'm not playing for teams because we already have like 4 Marines players on our teams, but they are a very fun singles army. And the Lion, if you're leaning into the fun side, he is a slightly suboptimal choice, but he is like not terrible. He is very strong, and he's very fun to play. They changed his pick 3s. So he lost his weird, in either player's turn, they take a battle shock test. If they fail, they lose the strat. Like he lost that thing. So you'll no longer randomly like cause your opponent to lose the game on a coin flip like once every 7 games, which is cool. In exchange, and also he lost one of his pick 3s used to be a 6-inch aura of +1 to hit in melee. They changed that +1 to hit aura for reroll 1s to hit and reroll 1s to wound in melee, which is sweet. So if the army's mobbed up around the Lion, you're like, oaths, whatever, dude. I got captain and lieutenant rerolls for days, and then you just oaths whatever you want to shoot, or you oath something with like minus to hit. And the other pick 3, the one that replaced the weird stratagem nullification one, is now if the Lion's not in engagement range, he just leaves. He goes into deep strike. So if your Lion's like off somewhere on the side of the board, and like you're like, there's no one within charge range of him, you can just piece off and rapid ingress, which is sick. And his goofy 6, his Emperor's Shield that like no one remembered except for, you know, some diehard Lion fans, which used to be whenever you saved in melee on like a 6, you did a mortal to the attacker. It is now changed to if the strength is greater than your toughness, -1 to wound for incoming attacks. So now the Lion is a T9 guy who's like always wounded on 4s unless they have +1 to wound. And yeah, that's this detachment.
Or you're like a DDA or a Tyranifax.
Yeah. I mean, now you're winning on 3s, but like that's really good. So I'm very excited to play this. I have honed in on the lists after playing this and working with Tanner on this at Beachhammer, and it's very funny looking at the list. And I'm like, this just has like one of every Space Marine unit, man. This is a certified Space Marine list, although it does have 12 ICC, which I'm very excited about.
Sweet. That sounds awesome. I'm very excited to see this on the table. Seems like a lot of fun. I don't think it's taking a Marine slot in innate, but like
definitely
really
not.
Cool and interesting.
There is like a very brain off version of the list where you just spam Deathwing Knights and you stand on objectives, and you could probably nullify a lot of armies doing that, but I think that there's like a lot more points to be gained by just like playing Blood Angels or Space Wolves and running at someone as fast as you can.
Yeah.
But this list is very fun. Yeah. If you're a Dark Angels fan, try it out.
The coolest. Sorry, I missed the last little bit of that because I was downstairs. But the this detachment is quite cool. Having played against it and watched some games played against it, it feels very. Gladius never quite felt like Dark Angels to me, right? A little bit of that is because it's just borrowing the Ultramarine rules.
Feels
but
like Ultramarines.
Dark Angels are very just slow and purposeful. They're a little bit more about just like we're kind of marching around the board, like being like these knights, keeping our secrets and just like keeping you away. And that this detachment feels so much more like that than Gladius does. And you still have the tools. I mean, like obviously the pounce stratagem is kind of buys into that like more defensive posture, but you still have advance and charge if you need it. You still have fall. Can you fall back and charge?
No, that stratagem. No, it's the same stratagem. It's the advanced shoot and charge. You also gain fallback shoot and charge if you have the Raven Wing keyword. So there's a lot more like if you lock my knights in combat, we're dueling honorably till one of us dies.
Yeah, that is very just like slow and purposeful. Let's grind, which you know I love that for Dark Angels. I think that's a much cooler aesthetic for them than Ultramarine flexibility. Also, -1 to wound is huge, and you can't play it the same way, right? Like you can't send these little units off on missions and then 1 CP let them fall back and charge and do a different mission. You need to be accepting that you're at some point your army's going to take some hits because you're almost certainly slower than your opponent, right? Like
yes,
you're building in the point of what you're doing is like you're supposed to tank. It's what your detachment rule tells you to do, and that's cool.
Is turn 2 or 3, you slam your entire army in the middle, and you're like, let's see how much you can kill. Also, if you end your shooting phase near me, I'm charging you.
There's not a lot of detachment rules in the game that are just like, here's a toughness bonus.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking awesome. I like when stuff is hard to kill.
There's also a very fun enhancement that gives you a +2 strength, +1 AP, and +1 damage in melee. So you get to play the fun little minigame of which Space Marine character gets to hit like a freight train.
And there's so many good options.
There's so many good options, dude. I was doing it on a Judiciar for a little bit. Right now I'm trying out on a Gravis Captain leading my Eradicators. So it's like, you want to come touch them? Dude will Kung Fu chop you. You know? Yeah, it's great. Yeah. There's a turn 1 deep strike enhancement for Deathwing, but it's not an ingress. Tanner had to reread that one when he tried to ingress with it instantly. But it's during your turn. But it's a really cool thing where you can be like, yeah, these Deathwing Knights are on my expansion turn 1. If you want to send in units to screen that, cool. You've sacrificed a unit because I'll charge it with a different thing, and the Deathwing Knight's not just going to play in the sky. So yeah, there's a lot of cool flexibility. I think the list simpling's a little greedy, but like that's the point of playtesting it. So you're gonna hone in on a better version of it. So, yeah.
Hell yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
How about you, Tyler? What are you hyped about recently, Mister?
Bro.
Easy enough to determine.
Dude. Oh my god, this detachment is so
Tell me about the snakes, because I actually don't really understand it fully.
Great. So Subterranean Assault is the new Tyranids detachment, and it's everything I've ever asked for in its detachment, other than letting me fire multiple Biovores in a turn. Yeah, I think that's it. Other than that, it's got everything I could ever want. It's ridiculous. So basically, there's a new keyword. It's the Burrower keyword. They put it on the new Ravener data sheet, which there's 2 of, because there's the regular Raveners and the spicy Raveners. I'll talk about those in a sec. And then also, if you play the detachment, the keyword pops up on Trigons and Molochs. 3 key parts of the detachment. Part number 1, Trigons, 2 of them can get upgraded to characters for free. Just up to 2 Trigons can get character keyword, and then there's an enhancement that goes with that, which is nice. Part number 2, your entire army rerolls once to hit all the time. No strings attached. This is wildly stupid. I don't know why they did this. I approach this as someone who plays a lot of bad armies that like I make work at a certain point. Like Tyranids in general do not have a lot of consistency or a lot of damage. GSC in general, medium, decent damage, questionable consistency. Admech, 0 damage, very good consistency. Like I'm not used to having all of the things, and this just kind of gives Tyranids an additional level of your stuff just works now. which is crazy to me. I think if they literally didn't print this line in the detachment, it would still be a good detachment. It probably wouldn't be crazy. Like it'd be okay, but like they didn't need this, but they gave it to us. It's kind of like in when Mordaka was released, it was like, hey, cool, you get the funny sustained, great, but you also get assault. Like, what are we doing? I just don't understand why that was necessary. Anyway, so there's that, and then there's the actual cool part, which is what the Burrower keyword does. Every time a Burrower keyword unit is set up from reserves, and there's a lot of ways to be set up from reserves in this detachment, but every time you put down a 40 millimeter token. That token's got to be not wholly, it's got to be within 1 inch of the unit that just arrived from reserves and outside of 3 inches of enemies. Really hard if you show up at closest outside of 6 to not be outside of 3 of enemies with your 40 millimeter token an inch away from you, but I digress. Once that token is on the field, whenever any other unit arrives from reserves, doesn't matter if they're deep striking, doesn't matter if they're walking in from strat reserve, doesn't matter if they're uppy downeying, doesn't matter. They can be set up wholly within 9 inches of that tunnel and outside of 6 inches of enemies. No other restrictions. They can still shoot, they can still charge. Crazy. You can do this on the turn that the tunnels arrived immediately after. So at like the very ground floor level, the detachment says, basically, all of your reserves, other than the first Burrower unit that drops in, deep strike at 6 and charge.
And remind me who has the Burrower keyword?
Again, it's Raveners, Spicy Raveners, Trigons, and Molochs.
Okay, so any one of them can make a tunnel, and then anyone else can use the tunnel.
Yep, tunnels don't go away unless someone gets within 3 of them, like blips, but they don't get used, so it's just there. Coming out of a tunnel is also Raven Reserves, also spawns a tunnel. So for example, if you bring in your Raveners, they show up, they spawn a tunnel, and then you bring in your Trigon out of that tunnel, he now has a 6-inch charge and creates another tunnel to put things further over there. And again, wholly within 9 of a 40 millimeter token is a massive radius, right? You're covering the board in these things almost immediately. Raveners, on the new datasheet, like on the old datasheet, uppy downy. So every single turn, they're adding more tunnels. Tunnel, 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 tunnel. When you ingress, you also create a tunnel because you're arriving from reserves. So you can drop in outside of 9, create a tunnel, and then run forward, and then everyone else drops out behind you and then charges 6-inch, has 6-inch charges. This is very silly. It just is. Let's talk about the new Ravener datasheet and the new Spicy Ravener datasheet for a sec as well, and then we'll get into the enhancements and stratagems. Number 1, the new Raveners, the regular ones, they're 5-man instead of 3-mans now. They're still 25 points a model, that didn't change, but they're min squad 5, so you spend 125 points. I think that this is actually like a stealth buff because it keeps you from taking the 3-mans that you want to and forces you to actually take the 5-mans that you probably should have in the first place because it's a little too easy to kill 3-mans and they're a little too important. That being said, if you could just take 3x3 for 225, that'd probably also be kind of stupid. So I think it's a reasonable change. Their melee output has changed dramatically. They've gone from 7 attacks, X on 3s at 511 twin link, that goes up to 611 in synapse. Now they are 3 attacks only at 522 twin linked, 622 in synapse. So that 5-man unit has 15 attacks, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s because of the detachment, wounding on basically anything in the game, at worst on 5s rerolling. They are incredibly efficient at killing the things they want to kill. They are a marine slaughtering machine. It's great. And this is for a unit that basically, in my experience, doesn't get play until the later turns because in the early turns, you're just using it to spawn tunnels and do bullshit. That's very cool. In addition to that, we have the new Spicy Raveners. I think they're called Hyper-Adapted Raveners. This is the Kill Team box set. First of all, slight tangent, on the tangent. I love the Kill Team box set Raveners so much. I think that is going to go down in history as one of the best kits that GW has ever made because it is a dual kit that either makes 5 regular Raveners or 5 Kill Team cool Raveners that all have different stuff and look totally different. I think that's incredible. Just very awesome design that you get to do that. So if you go that route and you and you build the cool Kill Team ones, they are 40 points more. So instead of 125, they're 165. They have, instead of the uppy downy, they have free ingress or heroic, right? Once a battle round, they do one or the other for free, and it's also a double up. So you can ingress them and something else, or you can just ingress them for free. You can heroic them for free, and like Venetarii, that means you could stack them up. You can drop. You could ingress 4 units in a turn if 3 of them are these guys.
Wow.
Which is kind of cracked. That's my understanding of the rules. If someone sees it differently, tell me. But like I believe it's worded exactly the same as Venetarii, and they work like that. So I could be wrong. I don't think you want to do this because they're very expensive, but it's an option. In addition to this change in rule, they're also have a slightly different melee profile. The Ravener Prime, he's a character who's a part of this unit, so it's like a command squad basically. You get Ravener Prime, a Ravener with a gun, and then 3 regular Raveners. Their melee profile is identical to the regular ones. Other than that, they gain anti-monster and anti-vehicle 5-up, which they carry their own synapse, so they're always minimum strength 6, so they just happen to wound T12 on 5s as well if you're a monster vehicle twin-linked.
And they get around like -1 to wound effects,
Sure.
I guess. Like Mutiliths.
Yeah.
That's a
Or a Mutilus -1 to wound?
they can be in that one, the goat detachment.
Oh, totally. Nice. So that's kind of cool. People have been trying to figure out how to make like the crit wounds a relevant thing for them. It's just not that I could find anything real. Anyway, so there's that. In addition to that, they have a pseudo leader ability that basically says that their unit gets sustained. So they actually hit markedly harder.
wow.
And in addition, the Ravener Prime is basically just has double the attacks. He has 6 attacks at that same profile.
Oh, what the hell?
Can you
So
attach
instead of-
them to normal Raveners?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's goaded.
this is
So
what
you
I
can make
was
a
hearing.
10-man mega unit where
Holy
they
shit.
the unit's still uppy downies for free. It still ingresses or
you
heroics
get-
for free.
Oh, because they're
And then-
leading.
Because they're just in the unit. And then this total unit in total is 9 dudes that are 3 attacks, 1 dude that's 6. You have 33 attacks on 3s, reroll 1s, always sustained at, again, 6/2/2 twin length.
That's awesome. Is the gun good?
The gun is random. It is a D6 plus 3 flamer at 6/1/1.
Does it ignore cover?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess they'll
Go
like,
off, King.
kill 4 cultists on the way in or some shit.
Just spit some venom over there. Why not? It's just a funny little gun. It's nice in it's another one of those. I always love Raveners having shooting attacks because they are still Vanguard units. So if you play Vanguard, you can use that to proc surprise assault in the shooting phase, which is kind of cool. It's just like a generally nice to have thing, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. The problem with this mega unit is that it's
300 points and it's paper thin.
it's 300 points of T5 4-up armor.
Guys, the Forge Fiends in Overwatch.
Yes. 14 Overwatch might literally kill the whole unit if it rolls reasonably well. I don't recommend. I've tried joining this in one game, into Star Shatter. I tried it because I was thinking that it would be really good into rates, and it kind of is. It's just not the correct decision. Just don't do it. I like this unit though.
I mean,
Are
the
there any
option's cool.
resilience buffs in the detachment?
I don't think there's any.
Kind of. There's one. We'll get to that in a sec. There's a heal. There's no resilience.
Okay.
There's no
Never like
durability.
reactive strats.
You can't react to move. You can't loan op. You can't 6 of feel no pain. Okay.
Nothing. It's all bullshit. Okay, so those are the two new detachments that we got. They're both really cool. They're both very competitive. I think you will obviously play Raveners in every tunneling detachment. It's just necessary. I think that you will see the cool Raveners, the spicy Ravs, in a lot of armies and a lot of detachments. They're just a very good data sheet.
Do they
The
seem
10-man unit,
Vanguard.
maybe in Vanguard. In Vanguard, you might just take all of them, right? Like, there's totally a world where you play Vanguard, and like, I don't know if it doesn't, but like, if your Vanguard list is 30 Steelers, 3 Broodlords, and then 30 Raveners, and you're just like, turn 1, I send, turn 2, I ingress and send, like,
Free multi ingress is incredibly good.
it's
especially
really
on
good.
lead units. That's
Yeah.
hype.
Yeah.
A thing that's cool
So
too,
there's-
since they are a leader, you can just have the option to be like, I'm playing 2 5-man Ravener units or play
Exactly.
1 Mega 10, depending on the
Yeah.
matchup or mission.
I have one unit of them in my Tunnel Snake builds right now, partially with that threat in mind. I really like the thought of it.
Also, a free tunnel and ingress sounds pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Free tunnel ingress is great.
I'm sure there's some janky shit you can do with that.
Yeah, we'll get to it. It's also really cool that they have the uppy downy from the regular Raveners, so they're really great at being I collapse this flank and kill this unit from behind the wall. Cool. I'm over here now. I'm over here now. It's kind of what the detachment does already. So
its invasion fleet is the one with the run away after you've killed the unit, right?
Yeah, overrun.
Is that still? Is it just 6 inches or is it more?
It's just 6.
Okay.
No.
I'm like, you could do some cool shit with like punch a thing, run behind a wall, your opponent doesn't come deal with you, you leave on the end of their turn, right?
Yeah, you want. I think Vanguard's going to be better at that with the 8-inch slowing up and the reactive move.
Yeah.
But Vanguard is also kind of stinky because man, oh man, do they really need the winged high tyrant giving them the 2 CP every battle round to make Vanguard sing. That detachment fell off me pretty hard when the free strat nerfs came through. Disflux in the chat here is saying that he expects a lot of 3D prints to be going around. Oh my gosh, boobs, of course they will. I need to get one Ravener because I want, I'm going to get a box of this because I want both halves, they're very cool. But what I want to get is, I want to get one of the, I hate them, but I think they're really cool, is the old school Raveners, the like weird S-shaped ones that are carrying the gun. You seen this model? It's from a 3rd edition. Yeah, I have a bunch of Metal Rav 5th edition ones that are, I'm sure Ryan does, yeah. But they have this really, it looks like a earthworm in a cartoon or something, but he's got a gun. But I want my Red Terror model to be the Ravener Prime, my old metal ones to be the Raveners, and then the one dude with that to be the guy with the gun. It's going to be great. But I also love the new models, so I'll get them as well. So they're going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, they're going to be in short supply. So definitely get your pre-orders in immediately because these are going to sell like hotcakes. Everyone wants them. Fortunately, the Ravener's base size didn't change. They're still on 40s. Also, by the way, we skipped this. Massive shout out to GW for putting out a base stock. Oh my god.
Yeah. Also, massive props to GW for putting fucking crabs on 160 millimeters again, dude.
Yeah. Defilers too. It doesn't even come in the box. Fuck you.
Yeah.
If you play Defilers, you deserve that, I guess.
Buy it separate.
Yeah.
If I have to read one more post about how to model or move these things around the board, I was going to end it, dude.
Put it on a base.
I'm glad they're on a base.
Yeah, no more dead spiders. It's great. Anyway, so that's those data sheets. Very cool. There's one more data sheet we have to talk about because you can't understand this detachment wholly without it, which is the Psychophage. They rewrote the Psychophage data sheet in the balanced data slate. Psychophage used to be a fairly durable, very cheap bug. He was 90 points, which was crazy cheap. The fact that he's T9, 10 wounds, has a 5-up feel no pain. Just a nice little bug. They buffed him. They made him movement 12 instead of 8. And they gave him a new ability. Yeah, he's fast now.
What the hell?
Yeah, he's moved 12. He just goes, which makes him a really great early piece.
Yeah, did you not see John's message? I'll send it to you. Keep going.
His data sheet ability went from a 6-inch aura of 6-up feel no pain to instead he's like a melee castigator. When he shoots you with his flamer, he hits you with +1 an AP in melee.
Jesus Christ.
So he says, you over there, great, I'm +1 AP. So my Raveners are now AP 3. Great. My Horror Spexes are now 14 attacks at 822 and 4 attacks at 14, 3, D6 +1. My Trigon is now 12 attacks at, well, we'll get to the Trigon in a second, but he also goes to AP 3, right? It's a very nice set of buffs. In addition, the Psychophage's melee got buffed. He used to be D6 +1 attacks in melee, which was ridiculous. He's just 6 now. And his other datasheet ability, because he has 2 for some reason, is that against units under starting strength, he's +1 to hit, and then to units under half strength, he's +1 to wound. A theme that you will find when building these lists is that you want as many things that hit on 2s as possible to maximize the utility of reroll ones to hit. And a Psychophage, who happens to have a nice little flamer to kill a dude off really easily, or maybe your Ravener flamer comes in and does that, is very good at getting something under starting strength and then running in and having 6 attacks at 2s, reroll 1s to hit. And then he's 6-1-2 with his own buff. He can go up to 6-2-2. He's dev and he's anti-psycho 4-up. So if he's +1 to wound at 6-2-2, great. He's trying to dev people, very cool as well. He no longer gives an aura of any kind of durability, just further ways that this detachment is more glass cannony. But really great piece. Really makes a lot of sense in the world of this detachment. Okay, let's get to the good part of the detachment, the enhancements and the stratagems. Best enhancement by far, Trigon Prime. Real simple and straightforward. Pick a Trigon who's a character. He gets +1 strength and +1 weapon skill. Dude's a beast. Because he's synapse. Sorry, I don't remember if becoming a character gives him synapse or the enhancement does. I think it's the enhancement. The enhancement also makes him synapse, which means it's actually +2 strength. So it goes from strength 9 to strength 11 with his 12 attacks that now hit on 2s, reroll 1s.
Incredible.
12 attacks at 2s, reroll 1s at 11, 2, possibly 3, flat 3. Munch. Hell of an enhancement. Second enhancement, arrive from reserves on turn 1. Interesting thing. We'll get into it more later, maybe. I don't know how much I want to spend talking about this army, but I don't think it's very useful. It's very good in some very specific cases, basically only if you're going second. If you're going first, it can help you to arrive turn 1 and plant a tunnel, and then you could leave with your uppy downy maybe from Raveners, because you want to have a tunnel in your backfield. Like, that's okay. I don't think it's worth 15 points for that privilege, but it's a legal option. There's also definitely situations where, because you're a very reserve-heavy army, you might not have as much on the board. You just like slam something big on your expansion and say, what are you going to do about it? It's kind of cool, maybe. It's not that big of a deal. Enhancement number 3 is redeploy 3. Great enhancement. This is an army, again, that is trying to be deep striking a ton of stuff. So it's going to do maximal damage out of deep strike. If you can put more of your army off the board, great. Use the redeploy for that. Also not bad if you like take a big unit of on Ryan, just to play the middle. Not big deal. Redeploy 3. I don't need to tell you how redeploy is good. And then last but not least of the enhancements is what is it? Synaptic strategy. Ingress for free. 0 CP ingress. And can do so even if you have already targeted a different unit with the stratagem in this phase. You can ingress 5 units.
Good lord.
Go off, King. Needless to say, I don't think this is necessary, but this is totally like a skew that you should try. Try 5 ingressing units. See what happens. If you're taking 2 Trigons, the second one probably takes this enhancement. The first one takes Prime. You can't have both, unfortunately, but 2 Trigons, cool. Okay, stratagems. And this is where the army actually gets cracked. First stratagem is useless. In either player's command phase, you pick a Moloch or a Trigon, you give it synapse. Cool. Your Trigon Prime already has synapse. You don't need that much synapse. It's whatever. Second strat, replenishing swarms. In your movement phase at any point in time, you pick a Tyranid unit wholly within 9 of a tunnel marker. You heal it D3 plus 1 to a single model, or if it's Griblies, they get D3 plus 1 back. Great strat. As we said, we don't have a lot of durability to go around. Healing is nice. Up next, we start doing some damage. What's it called? Enfilading Emergence. So end of your movement phase, you pick a Tyranid unit that arrived from reinforcements this turn. Until the end of your fight phase, they have +1 ignores cover. So this works in shooting, and it works in melee. If you have units that do both, even better. Great. Rerolling 1s with sustained, very good combo. A lot of Tyranid shooting is excellent. And then we have the mobility strats. The one that is like jumps off the page at people as being super dumb is 1 CP, pick a monster that arrived from reinforcements this turn. It gets a 6-inch aura of reroll charges. So you drop in 7 units at 6. They're all going for these charges. 6-inch charges only like 72% going to happen. Who knows? You only get to CP roll one of them? Nope. 1 CP reroll all of them. They're all 93% chance. Go get them, boys. Super strong. Yeah. And then the 2 mobility strats, which are 1 CP uppy downy, period. And then in addition to that, if it's burrower units, it's 2 units. So you can grab, for example, your Trigon and also your Hyper Ravs, because the regular Ravs do it for free. You can do Molochs. Very cool. And then lastly, and this is the best stratagem, and it's not close, we have the teleport strat, which is at the end of your movement phase, You pick one Tyranid unit wholly within 9 inches of a tunnel. You remove them from the battlefield. You set them up wholly within 9 inches of another tunnel, more than 6 away from enemy units. You can still shoot, you can still charge. You'll notice some things that I didn't say were a unit that is not in engagement range. So this is teleport to another tunnel to fall back, shoot, and charge.
Wow.
Which is very silly. To 6-inch deep strike, fall back, shoot, and charge to the other side of the table. And again, it's at the end of your movement phase, so after your reinforcement step. So something that I've had happen very often is I'll be like, damn, that unit's in combat. Anyway, I drop Raveners next to it, and I drop Raveners on the other side of the table, and it teleports to the other side of the table, shoots something, and 6-inch charges it. Cool. Just a very silly stratagem. This combination of abilities is nutso. You are teleporting all over the table. You're uppy downying all over the place, right? Because you basically have 2 uppy downies, because you have the site to site and you have the regular one, and your Raveners do it for free. You're ingressing and slamming things. You're cutting really intense angles. The shenanigans are everywhere. Here are some units that you should keep in mind when building this list. You all know me. You know that the first unit that I'm going to mention is Gargoyles. Gargoyles, the deep strike at 6 inches, fire and fade 6. 0 inches away. Beautiful thing. Nothing too complicated about that. Or, alternately, show up at 6, charge, wrap. This is the best Rhino wrapping detachment in the game. By far. 6-inch deep strike and charge on everything means that your small units gain a lot of value. Next unit to look at is Neurogaunts. Neurogaunts, at the smaller unit size, 11 dudes for 45 points are insanely cheap. 4 points a model, very good, very efficient. Problem is, what are you going to do with them? Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do with them. You're going to 6-inch deep strike them, and you're going to charge stuff. You're going to tag things, you're going to wrap things, you're going to get all over the table for 45 points. And it doesn't cost you a dime because you don't have to spend any resources to 6-inch deep strike them. Just do that now because you're going to have a tunnel there anyway, right? You can teleport them over there, you can ingress, you can uppy downy them over there, you can just walk them in. 6-inch deep strike. Great. The Haruspex is probably the next biggest one when we get into actual units, besides the Burrowers, obviously. Haruspex is cracked. Like I said, he's 14 attacks at 712. That goes up to 812 in Synapse. Could be 822 with Psychophage. And then 4 attacks at 14, could be 15. 2 could be 3, d6 plus 1. He's just a menace. Rerolls make him a menace. Sustain makes him a menace. The only problem with him, and he's dirt cheap. He's T11, 14 wounds at 3-up save for 135 points, which is absurd. It's stupid. Sorry, let me double check that actually. Where is he? Sorry, 125 points. Stupid. He's insane. The only downside is he's very slow and clunky, except that he just deep strikes at 6 and charges now, so it doesn't matter. He also, so people forget his shooting attack, his funny tongue. The funny tongue is 1 shot. It hits on a 4. No, it hits on a 3. Oh, why does it hit on a 3? It hits on a 3 rerolling ones at 6/2 d6 plus 1 precision. Right? And think about this guy. He shows up. You're going to pop this sustain strat at him because you want him to do more damage in melee. He also gets it in shooting. So you just happen to roll that 6. Double tongue? D6 plus 1 damage. It just kills characters. It just does. It's very silly. Great data sheet. Take them. Haruspex, baby. Take 2. Take 3 for all I care. That mouth do some funny things.
135? Or are they cheap?
125. 125.
Yeah.
That is insane, man.
They
were already a good data sheet.
Yeah.
They were already a good data sheet because they were stupidly cheap for their durability, and their melee was just kind of, I guess. Their melee got way better. Their biggest problem was lack of AP and lack of rerolls. They got both. And then lack of delivery is the actual one.
Yeah, waddling around 8 inches a turn, bumping your fucking mouth into walls.
No, it isn't.
Now you just literally teleport everywhere every turn.
You also,
yeah, they're great.
Have you ever done a thing where you turn them sideways and you're like, even if I fail the charge, I just have wall of dude in front of you?
Definitely, they do a real good job move blowing. What are you gonna do?
Have fun, man.
They're also OC4, which is such a nice number to be, because Yeah, it's like, oh no, your OC3 vehicles over here. Anyway, OC4. Because again, Army-wide 6-inch Deep Strike, all of your objectives are belong to me now. Because it's 6-inch and charge. I cannot get over how good this is at bullying primary. It's so silly. So they're
I
great.
love their 14 attacks, and then it's like, oh, by the way, you get extra attacks. They're las cannons. It's just like, okay. Normally extra attacks are shit, you know. Nope,
Yeah,
not
so
these.
they're
ones. These are good
nonsense.
ones.
But yeah,
Do you own a Haruspex? Or are yours like
so-
all magnetized or something?
one of my exocrines is magnetized to be a Haruspex. I'm definitely going to need to purchase. I'm frankly just going to purchase 3 more because it would be nice.
Yeah, this model's crazy.
It's super cool. I like them a lot. So
one.
yeah, they're very. I was playing with a Nexus like 2 weeks ago, trying to figure out what that build might look like, and like, nope, never mind. To be clear, by the way, if you're prepping for WTC, all other Tyranid detachments are dead. This is the one that we're playing. If that weren't clear, it's better at everything that every other detachment is, other than durability, which is better done by Invasion Fleet. Fine. If you want to play Nids for durability, go nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a couple of data sheets that you just like are the must use ones, and then there's a bunch of others that are really interesting. I've been talking grammar for all, so I won't go too into it, but and also I don't know what people have and haven't thought about. So those are kind of the obvious ones, but go looking. Basically, every data sheet is really good in this. In testing, what I have found is that basically every single unit that you put in this army is very good. They're just all good. So the problem that you run into when that's your testing, particularly when you're trying to optimize for teams, is you need to figure out not just what's good, you need to know what's best. And whatever you play first is going to feel great, and you're going to think this is awesome, and you're not going to want to change your list. Try a bunch of things. There's a bunch of stuff out there. Some of it's good, some of it's not. Big picture, I feel like you can build this list in one of like a couple ways. You can build what I think is going to be a lot of people's default, which is what I think is what Innis talks about a lot, which is to still play Tyranid good stuff, Maliceptors, Exocrines, whatever else. Maybe some Tyranofexes, and then just like slot in 2 units of Raveners and a Trigon Prime and call it a day. I think that's a totally valid way to play this army. I think it's very good. Maybe it's the right singles approach. I think it's kind of boring. The second way to play this army is to be an actual threat saturation. Excuse me. You're going to redeploy 3 units further off than you would otherwise. Maybe you take a unit of Von Ryans to fight the Infiltrator battle. Maybe not. Maybe you take some Gene Stealers to clear some early chaff. Maybe not. Maybe just who cares. And then you're just going to drop in and put 1,700 points of your army 6 inches away from your opponent, and then you're going to charge them. Go get it, Chief. That's a totally like if you are a Tyranid player who wants to turn their brain off, do that. You'll have a great time.
God, this army sounds miserable to play against on GW terrain. Holy shit!
Yeah,
How are you
I
supposed
have
to hide or do anything?
It's very silly.
Holy cow!
So that's an option, and you can skew that into more melee damage or more durability or whatever you want to do. Maliceptors make a lot of sense there. Here's the other thing also, as a reminder, you're still playing Tyranids. So you drop in, you throw 1,700 points forward, make sure some of it has the Synapse keyword, and then pop shadows. Have fun. You're all in combat. No one can fall back.
Yeah,
and then I don't need to fall back because I can teleport out. Like, very silly. So that's an option. Then you get some more interesting options like the skewed shooting heavy builds. You can build a version of this that is just trying to obliterate people. I think particularly in teams on a light board, this is really interesting. Zoanthropes, very good shooting unit. It hits on 2s, picks up reroll 1s, really likes sustained, really likes ignores cover. Its 8 had a really big problem with durability, or not with durability, with mobility, gone. You shoot.
Aren't they like 36-inch range too?
Only 24. They're only 24. They
Oh.
were 36 to be broken. But still, 24 or is plenty far away when I'm putting 3 Haruspex in between you and them.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you can do the
And they
thing
have
of
a-
like teleporting them to other tunnels, right?
Exactly. So they show up, they teleport away. You try to tag them, they can shoot you in combat, or they can teleport away. They can uppy downy. You can uppy downy one and site to site teleport the other one. They get all sorts of places. You can play multiple Zoanthrope units. You can play Exocrines. You can play Maliceptors. You can play Tyranofexes. The Nid damage is just silly. The T-Fex obviously likes this detachment a lot, right? Because he really likes reroll 1s. and he really likes 6-inch charging because he's T12 2-up save, and no one's killing that. Not while the rest of the armor is bearing down on them, and he's OC5, and he's on top of you. And also, as an annoying aside, his gun is 4 inches past his base, so he comes in 6 away and then turns the corner with his stupid giant penis. Like, it's very silly.
Same.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So a couple different builds. I also think there's a max primary denial build in here that I am going to play as soon as we're done building the actual build that we're going to take to WTC, because it seems like way too much fun. Neurogaunts are real good. Termagants were real good. 65 points of 20 OC just on whatever objective you need it to be on. I think that there's a build here with a Turvagon and 100 or maybe 120 Spine Fist Termagants, where that arrives at 6 and says, all of my Spine Fists are in range, so I'm shooting at full efficiency. One of the squads is getting lethal and sustain. They're all lethal. They're all twin linked. They're all in range. You grab a couple Pyrovores for some more Ignores cover, maybe. Maybe you don't need that. You probably don't need that. I'm going to light you the fuck up, and then I'm going to charge with everybody, because it's all 6-inch charges, and you're not killing my Turvagon from her very front and center position. She'll drop in. We'll put Venom Throps in with her. We'll play the Gaunt Carpet list, but just from our base of operations will be in the center of the board instead of on my home field. Good luck with that. And I still have, Trigon Primes and whatever else to do damage. Like there's a million ways you could build this. You could totally play this with 60 gargoyles or 80 gargoyles or 120, but like 60 gargoyles, totally reasonable. Right? Some of them are ingressing, advancing, fire and fading. Some of them are showing up at 6 and charging. Some of them just the primary denial is so good. If they take all the damage out from under the bottom, my secret dream for this army is that once I'm done smashing people with it, they take away the reroll 1s and the damage falls out the bottom, and you just play gargoyles and just 10s. Just 10s.
What do we have here? Another gargoyle detachment.
Every detachment is a gargoyle detachment, motherfucker. There are tons of a lot of cool stuff there. The only bummer about this detachment is that it doesn't have any battle shock related shenanigans, right? You can still obviously take all the normal stuff. Oh, sorry, there is one, which is Harspexes, which is that when Harspexes kill something in melee, everyone within 6 takes a battle shock. Yeah. Which is very funny. It's not like the most useful thing in the world because you're battle shocking things generally in your own fight phase. So the very next phase, they unbattle shock. But it can have a couple of nice pieces of utility when it comes to, like, he can do that and then turn off something for the fight phase, an AOC, an interrupt, or whatever. Or you can score a secondary off of that. You pick up tempting target because the thing that he was on top of no longer has OC. Something like that. It's a cool little ability. Or obviously, if you do your opponent's fight phase, now we're cooking with gas. If you get in. Yeah, that's the dreams. Like, get in, pop shadows. Shadows means that the thing sits in combat with you and just kind of hopes. Because he fails battle shock, you then eat him, and then because he died, everyone else takes battle shock who wasn't shot. Anyway, there's stuff here. This attachment's correct. Go play it. Go play it with anything. A couple of red herrings that I will tell you in advance to stop trying. Carnifexes. Don't do it. Bad data sheet. Pyrovores. Don't do it. Too big. The Flyrant. Don't do it. Too big. People. Beard hair in my mouth. Sorry. Where is the person asking about the goddamn Harridan? There it is. Harridan. Don't do it. Bad. I do not understand why people think the Harridan is going to work in this detachment. If you want to play a super heavy, play a Hierophant like a man. The Hierophant is actually good in this detachment. I think it might actually be cracked in this detachment. Because as it shows up at 6, it's Titanic, so it just needs a toe under the terrain, towering, to see everything. Shoots the crap out of some stuff. Charges, beats the crap out of some stuff, and then the next turn, the gargoyles get out of it. Or the termagants, or the warriors, or the zone throws. Like, it's so stupid. Go play a heart. Like, why would you play a Harridan? Harridan's gonna die. It's made of paper. Play the big bug. Anyway, so needless to say, This detachment is the coolest thing that's come out in 10th edition that I play so far. I am very excited about it. It is very, very strong. It has some very serious weaknesses. Number one, obviously, infiltrators. We just don't have an infiltrator solution other than ingressing and waiting a turn, which sucks. You can try to build some pure strains into your, or some stealers into your list or whatever to try to go deal with infiltrators. There's a couple different ideas of things you could do about that. At the end of the day, I think it's just like it just requires your opponent to be bad at Warhammer to actually get utility out of them. You're just going to have to sack a turn and keep the game going. Lucas looks so excited to play a Starrett versus a Hierophant. We could do that. I do. Oh,
No,
here
we couldn't.
But anyway, so infiltrators are a problem. The army has no durability to speak of, right? Like Lucas said, there are no benefits here, and a lot of these data sheets are really hitty and not very tanky. Trigon Prime dies very quickly. Harspexes die very quickly to dedicated anti-tank firepower. It's very easy to oopsie yourself, and you're spending like again 300 points or so on these Ravener units to make the army operate. You can very easily oopsie into, oh no, one more thing got killed than I expected. And also, because you're force feeding your army to your opponent, it's very easy to send out one more thing that you thought you should have, lose your Trigon for nothing or something like that, and suddenly you're on the back foot and you're getting tabled. You got to play a little bit carefully. The army is too strong, in my opinion. I think it's going to do really good things. I really hope it doesn't get touched between now and Challengers Cup so that I can run a train through some people with it. But it's very good. It's a lot of fun. And it's absolutely something you should be thinking about in Technifor if you're building lists in 40K in singles or in teams right now. Okay, I think I talked for like half an hour about this army, but it's a ton of fun. If you want to go deeper with this army, we'll do some plugs right here. If you want to keep this conversation going, want to hear more about it, you can head down to the description, check out the link to our Patreon. $5 a month gets you into the Discord where we're talking about this stuff all the time. I'm in there. If you want more one-on-one help in particular, head over to coaching.com/statcheck, statcheck.com/stat-check.com/coaching. All three of us offer coaching services to take your game to the next level. I'd love to talk more tunnel bugs with whoever's interested. This army is insane. It's a ton of fun. I'm playing a ton of it. I'd love to help you out with some of the cool strategies. There's a ton of little micro plays and stuff that I just don't have the time to go into over here. Hopefully we'll cover them in a stat rep soon. You can see some cool things in action, but it's just silly. Awesome detachment. Okay. You guys ready to move on? Shall Lucas talk about what he's excited about now? We heard enough bugs. Awesome.
Sure.
What army are you most excited about now? New stuff, Lucas?
Well, it is the year of chaos, and I am at this point pretty chaos pilled. Orks. Before I go into that, I'll just mention a couple thoughts on Orks. I mean, a lot of folks know me for being the Orc man. I'm gonna be honest. I'm just not really feeling that army right now. I enjoyed playing Tactical Brigade for a couple months post December, and before that, I was fiddling around with some Bully Boys, and before that, obviously over the previous summer, was Green Tide. I had fun with each of those archetypes, but I think, in all honesty, the long and short of it now is that one of the only viable ways to play Orcs at a high level is Warhorde. I know everyone was shitting their pants about Tactical Brigade for a while, but the army is incredibly elite. It was already a little bit of a glass cannon, and then it lost 100 points, and then it lost 100 points. And that is really rough, especially as the power of the game and the speed of the game, which is something that Tactical always struggled with high-pressure situations, holding on to primary, has gotten out of control with Cal Space Marines, World Leaders, Death Guard, I already said CSM, like the Subterranean Bugs, Space Marines, just being generally good at midboard brawling. Like, Tactical Brigade, despite being bemoaned as like a super consistent army, relied on tank buses hitting on 4s, and if you were go turn was 10% under average, you got fucking obliterated. And that's even worse now that you have 200 less points. So, and that's not to mention the nerfs to the actual detachment rule itself, which were significant and a bummer. I don't think they were unfair, but I don't think the army deserved to go up 200 points over the course of that happening. Anyway, Tactical Brigade is kind of dead to me. I don't think it's horrible, just like Mordaka as well. Both of those detachments were overtuned and rightfully nerfed. but they're just not viable at the like cream of the crop echelon of competitive play, in my opinion, at this point. Green Tide, similarly, for some reason, 20-man boy squads went up in points, which is just spitting on a grave or whatever the expression is. It was completely pointless. Green Tide was an okay archetype that some people were playing a little bit of, and other folks were playing a couple of 20-man boy squads in War Horde, Tactical Brigade, that kind of thing. I don't know why it went up. Just kind of an insult, honestly.
It just went up in the slate?
Yeah, 20-man boy squads went up like 10 to 15 points.
What the hell?
Which kind of hits
how they upped
hard, because that's like also 100 points.
They upped Sags and Tank Busters, and I was like, yeah, fair enough, whatever. I didn't see that. That's crazy. Why?
Yeah, Sags and Flash gets, a 10-man Flash gets, and Tank Busters, and 20-man boys. Yeah, I mean, it always sucks to play something that was freshly nerfed, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad army again, but I'm just not excited about it. So yeah, that's where I am. And War Horde, yeah, it's old reliable. A lot of people enjoy it. Personally, if I'm going to play an elite melee army, I'd much rather go play CSM or World Eaters or something that actually feels like it should be an elite melee army. Orks' edition of, there was like a 3-month period of I was having incredible fun with the Green Tide and playing the horde of orcs that I know and love. And since then, or before that, and since then, it's just been this hyper elite, hard hitting glass cannon that just doesn't feel like orcs to me. And yeah, so I have no interest in it right now. So Chaos, by contrast.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think that orcs have been. I think that orcs have been under the thumb of how good the truck datasheet is this entire edition. Is my hot take. I think that the truck datasheet is so goddamn good that the entire edition they have had to build different. They have had to be balanced around how good that datasheet is, as all of their builds are just exploiting how efficient it is. So they have to be in cars. So they have to be elite. They have to be hypermobile. And then all of the abuses with all the shooting nonsense and comes in off of that. I think if they just, in the index to codex transition, were like, truck is too strong. Let's make it a little bit more expensive, decrease the firing deck capacity, and take 2 inches off its movement. They could have written a really cool codex that doesn't require this being the kind of builds that they have, and they would have felt more like Orks. But instead they have to be like Harlequins, which is weird. Yeah. And then the same thing happened with the Tank Buster datasheet. That datasheet came out and the entire codex was just like fell off a cliff because it was like, we have that, that's all that matters. And those 2 datasheets have just radically warped how everything about that army works, the entire edition. And it's been a massive bummer to watch happen because I agree, orcs have not felt like orcs in a long time.
The other thing that I despise about the orc design philosophy this edition, really quickly, is that war bosses are your squad sergeants. Melee orc lists have like 6 war bosses. What the fuck? There should be like 9th edition did it perfectly, where every list had like 2, maybe 3 war bosses, and they were these super cool badass characters who are either really hard to kill or hit ungodly hard. War bosses now are like you jam as many of them in a truck as you can. Each one of them is a super knob, and if one dies, whatever. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, it doesn't thematically make sense, and it just promotes a toxic playstyle where the actual units are shit. You're never taking Beast Naga boys. You're never taking boys. You're never taking knobs. Tank busters aren't even that good until you catch the ridiculous character who does way too much and synergizes way too much with their datasheet ability. It's toxic, and I hate it.
Orcs being the most, like, every unit needs a leader army is so silly. It's so dumb. Silly.
Drives me up a
wall.
All right. Okay, anyway, Chaos, meanwhile, is the exact opposite. I'm fucking loving playing Chaos Power Armor right now. Since Home Nations has ended, I've played nothing but World Leaders and Chaos Space Marines, which has just been a huge blast. I love sustained hits. I love lethal hits. And yeah, I'm just having a good time. Right now I'm working on a lot of World Leader hobby, which is really fun. I've got a Karn conversion on my painting desk and some spawn that I've converted from the Gorger Maw pack, the Warcry Age of Sigmar dudes. So these guys are going to be all red and nasty. So I'm excited about them. And it's just any time where I'm excited about playing an army and new rules and the hobby is just like, it's just like this perfect concoction of excitement that it's just really infectious for me personally. So yeah, world leaders, new codex. I guess I should probably start with CSM because that's a little bit more of an old staple. I mean, Renegade Raiders has been good since the codex came out. And obviously since Grotmus, a lot of folks have, Bile has been tearing it up as well. I think these two armies play somewhat similar play styles where they're just kind of like aggressive and brawly. And, you know, Renegade Raiders has a couple more tricks and mobility options, which I think is really fun. It also has some like actual dedicated shooting, which is cool. Noise Marines in this detachment are really fun and hard to pin down as well, which is just super fun to keep that unit activating. And, you know, with the Renegade Raider strat, you can run different bricks to a lot of success. The reroll hits and wounds on objectives is just super fun. Was enjoying like Bile's unit with that stratagem. Just really drives the damage through the roof. And just having an absolute blast. In the most recent data slate, there was a lot that Renegade Raiders got. They took a couple points hits, like the Noise Marines going up 10 points per squad was kind of stinky. But honestly deserved. And then something else went up. I can't remember though. But Disco Lords, oh my goodness, staying the same number of points, and basically every stat went up. +2 move, +2 strength on the melee weapon, +1 AP, +1 damage. The Disco Lord is really fucking good. He also has some crazy synergy. So I think he's crazy good in detachments that support him, which I think is exactly where he wanted Data Sheet to be. Because before he was dog shit, and now he's good in some detachments. If you can give him like reroll hits and something like Black Legion to really bump up his damage, it's really awesome. Packbound Zealots, he gets critical 5s if he's Slanesh, and there's a relic for 5 and Feel No Pain to really keep that guy going, which is awesome. And then that detachment also has Fallback in Charge. Renegade Raiders, oh my god. 1 CP advance in charge, 1 CP auto advance 6, 1 CP move 12 after you're done fighting. Like, admittedly, this is expensive, but your guy can go 20 inches, obliterate something, and then go 12 inches behind a wall and say, hey, I'm staring here on this objective now. I'm OC4. I have AOC access. I'm a super scary interrupt threat.
He's OC4?
He's OC4.
Hell yeah,
his defense also went up because not only is he 14-inch movement out, but he also has a 4-up invuln. So he's a Rhino with 2-up armor, 4-up invuln. It's so cool. They're not like impossible to kill, right? You shoot 4 las cannons at this guy and he has a chance of dying. If you punch him with like a good melee unit, he's probably dead. But it takes real investment, and that's cool because Renegade Raiders is otherwise like a fairly glass cannon-y detachment. Yeah, I've even been thinking about one just with the relic for at the start of your command phase, generate a CP on a 5-up, because good god, are these guys really CP and hungry? And if you can like get lucky and roll a 5-up or 2 on turn 1 and 2, you can kind of fund that early aggression that you want to partake in.
And
there's also
that's the
like
one where
it's
better if he's close to the opponent's DZ, right? Which is where he's going to be anyway.
Exactly. So
whereas like someone in a car doesn't do that because they won't do it turn 1 and then
they're not on the table, right? Like these guys are perfect for just standing around, in your staging ruin for a turn or two. He farms a CP or 2, and then he goes in, maybe gets 1 more, and then dies while punching something in the face. That's pretty awesome. Scout 6 is also an interesting one. The problem is this dude's on a kind of massive base, and his tail overhangs the back by like 2 inches, so he's kind of easy to shoot. It's hard to scout him into a position where he's safe. That's a little bit of a bummer. But if you play on a lot of terrain formats and missions where you'll have a good scout corner to go into, it's a good enhancement. It's just 25 points. And then the obvious one is 15 points reroll hits and wounds while you're within 12 of your opponent's DC. That's fucking insane because he's Lance, so you're always packing for sus, so you're always getting more hits. You're getting like 7 hits with the Lance at 8, 3, 3, 8, 4, 3 if the target's on an objective, and reroll wins. And that's not even mentioning his melta guns, his extra attacks, and his flamer. That's 6, 1, 2. Like, it's absurd. So Disco Lords are cool. That's awesome. And then, yeah, you can just play other CSM good stuff like Noise Marines, Legionaries, Possessed, Bile Brick. Raptors are really fun in Renegade Raiders. They're fast. They hit hard. They make great use of the opportunistic raiders because they can, go tag a predator and then lurch 12 inches way over to move block something. That's really fun. And then Bikers, the other cool part of Renegade Raiders, but that's just kind of like an efficient trash unit. So, yeah, the detachment's super fun. I've also been enjoying Bile recently. I've slowly come around to, return to Anthony, as it were. The guy who knows melee pressure power armor was correct about 10-man possessed and not running basic lords. Crazy. So the list I was running in that stat rep a couple months ago was cool and creative, and I enjoyed playing it. I think there are some benefits to it. The 5-man warp talons are honestly still a little enticing to me, but like the 5-man possessed just kind of don't get good strat use. They're a little too squishy. They don't hit hard enough. Like there's all sorts of breakpoints where they just don't quite do it. And 240 points for possessed is still just like you gotta just pay for it. So taking 20 of those guys is kind of automatic. And then from there, it's take your chosen, take your legionaries, load up some rhinos. Maybe it takes some warp talons, maybe it takes some extra cultists, but like there's not too much to the detachment other than try to brute force your way through your opponent, which is fun. It feels like the war horde of CSM, which I enjoy playing. I just don't like doing it with orcs. So yeah, been enjoying Bile as well. It's a lot of fun. I just finished painting my Night Lord's Chosen, which is it's been great to get those guys actually on the table and beating some face. Yeah, been having a blast with that as well. And then, okay, so those are two armies. The next one to talk about is World Leaders. I have been having an absolute blast playing Berserker Warband. I think it is so much more of a reasonable archetype for the elite fast melee army to be. I personally found the Exalted 8-bound Angron build a little bit. I mean, when it did the thing, it was a rush of adrenaline for sure. But it was a little bit glass cannon, and as soon as your opponent kind of knew what it did, there was a much better chance that they were able to kind of stymie your push a little. And there were some foot pieces in there, like the Fight First MOE unit. But there was a reason that guy was 130 points, right? Like that's an insane ability to have on a unit of Khorne Berserkers. So for instance, I like his Codex version a lot more, which is just like, yeah, got some nice buffs, right? He rerolls to advance and he gives you a CP when he kills a character. And he also reroll hits and wounds against characters. Just like a much more fun unit. So kind of recycling all the power from the Exalted 8-bound into like perfusing it into Spawn and normal 8-bound and Berserkers and just kind of giving everyone a little bit of love is so much more fun. And I feel like the builds are a lot more diverse now. They're running like 5 or 6 different staple data sheets instead of 2. Yeah, is it a bummer that Angron's basically only semi-playable as a rapid ingress threat? Yeah. I mean, we were even talking about this on the ride home from the beach, right? World Leaders urgently need a rapid ingress threat. It's a bunch of things that kind of play on the board and move 10 inches forward and charge. That's very play aroundable if your opponent starts learning that pattern, that play pattern. Having something that's fast and hits hard and comes in from deep strike can be a great asset. People are playing the very terrible Exalted 8-bound data sheet for this reason, right? Like they have deep strike, they can fit into a little pocket. So you and your opponent are just kind of like playing a standoff, stare at each other, do nothing game because they're a little scared of your Forge Fiends, things like that. They don't want to get charged, so they're 1-inching their walls. All of a sudden, your 3 Exalted 8-bound show up in a little corner, go around in a little corner behind a wall, zip around behind the next wall, and obliterate some Vindicator to get the game started. Angron can do that same thing. He's a lot more expensive, but he does it more reliably. So it's kind of like you're upgrading your garbage into Exalted 8-bound into another garbage unit, but you kind of need a rapid ingress threat anyway, so maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. He probably needs to go down in points, but I think there's some kind of avenue there to explore.
How many is he right now?
He's like 380 or some. He's 385.
Yeah.
He's unfortunately just too much.
And how much are 3 Exalted 8-bound?
160. So you're paying 220 points to upgrade your paper thin, hard hitting melee ingress piece into a not paper thin, hard hitting melee ingress piece.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe it
if
could be
3
worth
do
it.
the job like that you're talking about, then that makes sense why you're just running those.
What I like about him is he's not tanky, but he requires commitment to remove. Something I've definitely been familiar with Chaos Knights, right? Like no one piece is tough. But if you just say, it's an Angron, like, yeah, he's not that tough. He's still T11. He still has a 2-up armor save. If you shoot him with auto cannons, he's getting a 2-up armor. If you shoot him with a Vindicator, he could bounce you with 4 bin bones. You require concentrated, dedicated anti-tank to kill him, and those kind of shots might be better spent going into something like 8-bound, classic World Leaders fashion, like you're threat overloading your opponent. Maybe they don't have time to deal with Angron and he gets another activation.
Yep.
His new pick 3s are obviously worse than reroll to hit, but I do think some of them have play. For instance, the reroll blood dice. People were already taking Favorite of Khorne in Berserker Warband to get those rerolls because Dev Wounds against infantry is so essential into Custodes, Death Guard, other melee power armor armies. You need on your go turns to have Dev Wounds against infantry, or else your output goes down noticeably. And so you with the reroll 6 blood dice when Angron's on the table, or I don't know if he has to be on the table.
Yes, yeah.
When Angron's on the table. Okay. So when Angron's on the table, you get to reroll 6 blood dice, and you're much more likely to get Dev Wounds against infantry, which is, I mean, it's not like, oh, that's a reason to take them, but it's nice. It's noticeable.
Yeah.
I just wish his melee output aura wasn't dog shit.
It's just ignore mods, right?
Ignore mod hit and weapon skill mods, which is
and also I guess
okay.
move and charge rolls. You can't tango foot grenade me. Yeah.
So
he's definitely
but
his best.
If they could ignore damage mods,
that would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be a real reason to take him because the army does get cucked by -1 damage, big time.
Ignore mods. Who even has like the blanket ignore mods auras anymore? It's like just the Silent King.
And there was one other one. I was thinking.
Is Morty not anymore?
No, Morty has all the weird... It was Morty. Yeah,
he was Morty. Not anymore though, right? He has all the reactive shit now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like the days of ignore everything are they're not so much there anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Star Shadow gets the privilege.
So that's a bummer. The thing I love about Berserker Warband is all the core pieces are just fun. Spawn are fucking fun, man. Goremongers are super fun. Berserkers are awesome. I love Khorne Berserkers. And anyone that says that Lance is better than +1 AP is smoking that good shit, and I should have some. I love it. And 8-bound are also super. Just all the pieces are super cool and just very rewarding to use. And every time you get to pull it off, it's like, let's go. I'm doing the world leader thing. And it still retains that identity of kind of like go fast, hit hard, die quick, fly by the seat of your pants. But there's still some there's some skill in executing all the pieces. And if you bungle your go turn, then your opponent's going to get to pounce on you. So yeah.
Yeah, I will say watching 2d6 plus 10 attacks out of every spawn unit at strength 7 is something, dude.
It's a little bit of a trip. Everyone is, I think they're a perfectly balanced unit. They've drawn a lot of hate recently, but maybe I'm just colored by recency bias. The last 3 spawn I've had go into scouts have failed to kill them, but
hitting on 4s is also a bit of a problem.
They're 80 points.
Yeah. No,
they're 80 points with
completely reasonable
6 advanced in
charge. I would like them to be 85, but yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
I mean, compare them to CSM.
I would like Gargoyles to be 200.
I would like you to lick my balls, dude. Fair enough,
Chief. Oh, did you hear Tanner talking about Spawn at the beach?
Dude, this was funny. Tanner was like, I want to try the spot of Spawn because they can screen pretty well. And everyone was very quick to tell him, did you know those are OC0, by the way? And Tanner was like, yeah, shut up. They're for screening. Doesn't matter. Okay. Immediately turn one of our game, puts him on an objective and passes. I'm like, those are OC0. And he's like, I'm putting Cultists on it. Oops, my bad.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that CSM have no good cheap units with OC to screen and be the first unit forward. So you kind of have to like spawn.
Bikers.
No, we're talking about cultists.
That was exactly my point.
The spawn
What?
have
You
a
said
minus
CS?
OC aura.
I'm being sarcastic.
He's calling
and
Tanner
facetious.
stupid.
I'm calling Tanner.
Oh,
out.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
To be fair,
That's-
Tanner was playing the spawn because we didn't have enough biker models, and I was borrowing 3 or something for the horrible Samael Outrider
Gotcha.
unit. Oh, yeah. Sorry, not a horrible unit. Bad in Wrath of the Rock because it needs like
Totally.
rolls, and it does not have them there, or it does a gazillion miles away from your army.
So, any more thoughts on World Leaders before I move on to the spiky big boys? No.
Comments, Chief.
So again, recency bias here, but holy shit, the Chaos Knights Codex is cool. It's so cool. It's so awesome. So a couple things bearing in mind should be borne in mind here. The first of which is I don't think we have the MFM 100% codified yet. Art of War put out a video this morning talking about the points, but I wasn't able to locate it on Warhammer Community.
Yeah, the NDA is down, so like they can tell you what it is, but it hasn't been published.
Okay, so basically the long and short of it is that all the big knights came down in the neighborhood of 50 to 75 points, which is massive because if it means you're taking the more big knights you take, the more dogs you take, and that kind of has like synergy in the composition of your list, which is really fun. So I think for the first time in the edition, since like 9th edition, really, a combination of big knights and little knights is, I don't know if it's optimal, but I think it's viable, which is very, very cool. I think you can run 1 to 2 big knights. I think you can run a list with 3 or 4 and maybe just a couple babies and some war dogs. But things being cheaper is just awesome. It opens up so much. The war dogs also got worse. Power was taken out of their data sheets. Well, first of all, they don't in Howpack Lens you don't have access to Knights of Shade, and power was taken out of the data sheets, and then instead they were given a breadth of fun, cool rules, and made cheaper, which I think is like the perfect direction for war dogs. And they're also less tanky now, so it's just kind of a nice combination of it. It will probably feel better to play against war dogs. And it's also will probably feel better to play as war dogs because it's not just put OC8 on objective with Knights of Shade, put OC8 on objective with Knights of Shade, hope Brigand pop off, Carnivore charge in, apply Battle Shock. Like it's not the same 3 play patterns every single time. There's like tons of different stuff you can do, which is awesome. The war dogs also feel more specialized. I think they've made when I said they've taken the power out of the data sheets, what I really meant was they've made the Brigand less bullshit, which is completely reasonable. And they've reduced it in points, which is also quite fair. But they've given the Huntsman and the Stalker really powerful data sheet rules. The Huntsman is 140 points, so the same cost as a Carnivore or Brigand, and is now a compelling alternative, even though it doesn't have a mortar hat, because it rerolls wounds in shooting and melee against vehicles and monsters. Let's go. That rule is awesome. And you can now play things like Huntsman out of strat as your strat reserve dog rather than Carnivores, which lets you, play your faster dogs on the table, which has some utility there. So Huntsmen are awesome. Stalkers are also awesome. They've finally embraced their true purpose as the piece of shit dog that goes in to die first because they have Scout 6. So you're taking like 2 Stalkers in every list with Melt a Sword, and they go run forward and obliterate a Rhino. Cool. That's more than I expect out of my Stalker anyway. So he's a nice little harassment piece. Scout 6 lets you actually like start the game in not a shitty position, cornered into your deployment zone. And you kind of wanted to sacrifice your Stalkers anyway. Unfortunately, the Executioner did not get a data sheet glow up. It remains the same number of points for a bad gun with a mediocre data sheet ability. So you won't see Executioners. Which is very sad because the autocannon dogs are cool. But yeah, 4 out of the 5 dog chassis are now very good. And multiple big knight chassis are now very good. The Abominant is probably the big winner. It simultaneously had a points decrease of like 40 or 50, and its gun got 3 more shots, and its abilities got better. And that kind of trifecta means not only now is it spammable, but it's kind of effective in its role, which is really awesome. The one bummer is it doesn't actually buff war dogs near it. It doesn't have like the Rampage or reroll once to hit in melee. It doesn't have the Despoiler +1 OC in leadership, which is actually huge. But it just has good standalone data sheets abilities. It picks a target and says, hey, take a battle shock. And it also like pulses mortal wounds. It's not an aura, so you can stack them. So there's some like multiple Abominant synergies there. Yeah, and he's just cool. He's a great caddy for a lot of enhancements in multiple attachments. In the Index detachment, he can carry the Veil of Medrin Guard and just be a very cheap, aggressive knight that hits pretty hard, but also is a 4-up versus shooting and a 5-up in melee, so he's nice and tough. In Infernal Lance, you can give this guy Knight Diabolus, so he's weapon skill 2 and gets lanced when he packs for damage, which is huge. That makes him from a mediocre combatant into an excellent combatant because his melee weapon will have sustained, lethal, lance, and hits on 2s instead of 3s. Ridiculous output buff. I like the Abominants as kind of a attention soaker. I think especially if you're playing multiple big knights, you want your Abominants, the classic problem of a mixed knight being it's not that good at any one thing, so you can't rely on it to kill a target in shooting or in melee. But if you don't assume that it does and you're just using it to harass and soak up attention, it's kind of fulfilling its primary function. If you take an Abominant and say, I need you to kill this Rhino, he's not going to ever. Right? But if you take an Abominant and say, I need you to ingress and go create problems for my opponent on their side of the board, they can do that. Big Knights didn't lose OC like the War Dogs did, so you can still just jam an OC 10 moron with a bunch of Battle Shock auras on your opponent's expansion.
One detachment they gained OC.
Deal with me. True. They did. Yeah, it's a lot. 12 is a fucking lot of OC. Yeah, so I think they like the damage enhancement like Knight Diabolus, but I think really the tankiness enhancements are kind of what you want to look at here. The Veils of Medrin Guard, the Putrid Carapace is actually really fucking good because it gives them a 2-up armor and heal D6 once per game, which is just obnoxious. I'm trying to think of other resilience relics. There's the Blessing of the Dark Master, which lets him 0 a damage once per game and gives him stealth. There's a sneaky amount of like stacking hit mods in this army because you can like give a big knight stealth, but then also turn on darkness, so you're -1 to hit. So you can be like -2 to hit versus ranged. It's really powerful. So yeah, I think your Abominant like resilient harassment tools is really where you want to be with them. And then there's like from there with your big knights, after you've gotten your 2 or 3 Abominants, if you're really looking to spam bigs. There's lots of good options. Lancers are fun. Rampagers are still not bad. They're fast and hit hard. The problem is they're like super squishy. There's Despoilers as well. There's a really fun Despoiler. You can build a Warpborn Stalker that is basically Mysterious Garden from Imperial Knights. So your knight has Deep Strike and then uppy downies once per game. So this guy starts the Deep Strike. On turn 2, he ingresses in a spot where he can walk out and obliterate a tank. And then if your opponent doesn't immediately kill him, he goes into reserve and does it again next turn. So this guy is an awesome like tank assassin, especially because Lords of Dread has a stratagem for reroll 1s to hit and wound against monsters, which improves the reliability of the spoiler massively. He has 43 shots, 12 -4 D6 +6 with reroll 1s to hit and wound, and then he gets 1 reroll of a 2 to hit or wound from his Despoiler ability. So actually kind of reliable. It's not just hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. It's it's more like 80 to 90% success instead of 55 or 44. Yeah, it's great. Super fun. You are still going to run into big knight problems, right? You cannot find fallback, shoot and charge in the codex other than in Outback Lance. So you can definitely get bogged down. Especially these Despoilers with guns are like kind of dog shit in melee. But you're going to have fun while doing it, and I think it's no longer trolling to bring big knights, which is just such a refreshing place to be. I genuinely feel like the Codex has competitive dog-only builds, it has competitive big knight-only builds, and it has competitive mixed builds, which is just such a win. It's such a win. I can't believe people are complaining about this book. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'm undervaluing the toughness buffs or toughness nerfs, but I couldn't be more happy with it.
Yeah, it seems to me like this may be a slight power decrease as compared to the index, as we've seen this happen with a bunch of codices, but it's a flavor through the roof. Oh my god. I think the CK are by far one of the worst internally balanced indices. Like, just an absolute disaster of a rule set that there is one build and it is 2 data sheets to the max. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and like
Misspoke.
1.5 stratagems.
Yeah,
You did literally 3 things in every CK game. It was so boring. It was absurd.
to go from that to every data sheet being every scale of data sheet being interesting. I don't know if the tyrants are of any interest or value, but okay, that. But Cerastus Knights are of value. People are talking about them all the time. We'll see what happens with them. I don't know if they've locked in. Did they lock in how they changed?
What do you mean?
Like did Cerastus get the toughness mods and stuff, and also change points?
That's still unclear. I'm guessing that they're gonna come down a little bit in points, go to T11, get 4 so wins.
Exactly. So assuming that happens, or even if it doesn't, even more so, the Cerastus are still totally playable. So like really cool stuff up and down, tons of really cool, flavorful detachments. The removal of dogs walk through walls, great change. I feel bad if you're a CK and Orks player because those armies have not played like CK and Orks remotely. CK being the unmoved blockable vehicles army. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
No. Copy robots army. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Run around and with a bunch of idiots that are moderately tough up and do decent damage while having a lot of OC and space on the floor. Very cool. Much better place for the army to be in.
Properly being a Battle Shock army is really fun, and is what initially drew me to CK. I think the bringing back the dread table and still incorporating, because this was the thing about the CK army rule. As soon as they made it active from turn 1 onward, it was good. -1 to hit while the opponent's Battle Shocked, your +1 to win them is really, really good. The problem was it was very unreliable, and you kind of didn't have any. Not having agency over it ties in very heavily with that unreliability. But the big part is like you didn't really. There were games where your opponent was never Battle Shocked, but there were other games where your opponent was always Battle Shocked. Now you have a lot more control. If you just want to be -1 to hit the entire game from darkness, you can do that. If you just want to be -1 leadership the entire game and make your SEM opponent shit their fucking pants, you can do that. Like you can pick any of the options. Or if nothing looks good, you can just say, hey, on turn 1, I'm rolling 2, and I'm getting 2 decent buffs. And on turn 3, I'm rolling 2, and I'm getting 1 or 2 decent buffs. Like, that's still viable. It's cool. Dread table, let's go. Hype.
So much cooler than Bile in terms of I'm going to have some random buffs. Buffs are not nearly as impactful. They're still all very solid. They're all interesting, and you can play into each one of them. And they change throughout the game, so you're not locked in. Great codex. Very pleased with whoever wrote this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be competitively in an interesting space.
There are times in Bile you roll toughness and ballistic skill, and you're like, fuck, I can't play the game anymore. But I don't think ever in CK, if you're rolling on the dread table on turn 1, you're going to be upset about the result. Maybe you're like, whatever. But you're never just like, oh, well, no. -20% chance to win this game, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's going to be really exciting. How do you feel about demons?
So that's the interesting question, is what allies to bring. I think there are some staples that should be in most folks' lists, especially because you're taking more bigs. I do think you should reserve 200-ish points for your demons. I don't think it's enough to just bring a squad of Nurglings or a squad of Plague Bears or something like that. It's still unclear, by the way, whether or not Nurglings are going to get a 5-up invuln save when they're allies. I don't know. If they do, it's goated. But whatever. So Nurglings are obviously the easiest plug and play is Nurgle Demons, right? Because Plague Bears now there's only some detachments that have sticky objectives. So if you're playing Hound Pack Lance, you can still stick to your home with Plague Bears and screen it out. That's amazing. And if you're playing a detachment that doesn't have sticky, or maybe has it be an enhancement or an expensive stratagem or something like that, you can just sticky it anyway. Okay, great. Nurgling's also great for some infiltrate control. Their aura is very nice at keeping dogs alive. That's cool. In my opinion, the best Nurgle demon ally is the Beast of Nurgle. She is really good at screening out your like top left corner if you're in the bottom left, your secondary corner, as it were. Just keeping your opponents out of there, and then every once in a while she'll do recover assets or sabotage or something like that while screening. Very valuable data sheet. 65 points. You can also play 2 of them. They now have Scout 6 and are OC 3. So one can be on your home corner and one can go forward onto your expansion or harass your opponent's expansion. You can kind of do a whole bunch of things with them. They're very good as well. I don't think personally that Slaanesh or Khorne demons really do anything. The unfortunate part about Khorne demons being that the demon nerf, where if you there might be some argument for like flesh hounds. Flesh hounds, for example, up down, that's awesome. But unfortunately, they come with attacks of you have to take a unit of blood letters, which absolutely suck ass. So that's a non-starter. Slaanesh demons kind of similarly. You don't want to really be forking over a lot of points for demonettes. They're kind of ass. And none of the characters or other non-battle line units are really enticing me that much. So I'm going to leave Slaanesh demons at home. Zeech demons are kind of interesting. They have some decent load ops. The Blue Scribes is still relatively cheap. The Changeling is expensive, but he does Battle Shock stuff and has a good flamer. That's cool. Blue Horrors are interesting but expensive. Pink Horrors are interesting but expensive. The big thing that I don't like about Zeech demons is when you compare them to Nurgle, they're like 40% more expensive for less durability. Which I would rather have cheapness and durability than cute rules, personally. So that's where I stand on it personally. I'm still just going Nurgle all the way. But there's definitely some good options to play for. And maybe there's some cool hidden stuff with like Blue Horrors being an aura -1 leadership. You see Care natively -1, and then you choose Doom for another -1. So your Horrors lurch out. Your Abominant goes out and says, hey, land for it. Take a Battle Shock at -3. You shit your pants? Now my Melting Guns destroy you. So yeah, that's really cool.
How do you feel about Rodigus?
That is interesting, and I haven't thought about him. He is a great way to get your opponent to commit, right? Because you're not... CK were already a very squishy army, and their durability went down. So the thing that goes to your expansion early to get your opponent to start playing the game with you, you don't really have one of those data sheets in Chaos Knights. So Rodigus would be a great way to get those games started, and I do think that is probably worth exploring. Yeah, very good point. He is more on the more expensive side. I think he might be more interesting, honestly, in something like Houndpack Lance, where he just goes to the middle and 4 dogs go to your expansion, and you're like, I'm threatening a 15. What you gonna do about it, bitch? And then they have to commit to Rodigus, which is like, well, wow, dude, you killed my fat guy. Good job. So yeah, very interesting. Okay.
I think that he makes a lot of sense in conjunction with bigs of any number, like whether you're doing a bunch of bigs or just like 1 or 2. Because if there's a T11 big on the table, do you really want to shoot at T12 Rodigus?
Fair.
Really?
So he just straight goes up the middle.
Both end. No respect.
I think
right.
he also has
and
a lot of
got
synergy with towering. A lot of your guns are 36-inch range, right? So if you're staged behind your kind of safe ruins and Rodigus is in the middle, if they come out to shoot Rodigus from any angle, you will shoot them back because you're going 12 through ruins, you're tagging onto terrain, and you're going at 36 range. So your Abominant is shooting, your Despoiler is shooting, your Warpbond Stalker is coming out of Deep Strike. That's cool. Yeah. I like that.
He also conjoins really well with the OC situation because you're like, all right, well, here's Rodigus. I guess he's OC5. You're -1 if you come onto the point, and here's a dog. So I'm actually OC10. Or here's a big. I'm actually OC15.
Yeah, you're never contesting me.
Yeah, I think he's a good
What is his... Does he have a 6 of Feel No Pain?
Yeah.
Oh, brother. That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some fun play there.
I like that. The other thing to keep in mind for allies, really quickly, is we do have a Grotmus detachment that was quickly written off by a lot of people. Iconoclast is probably worth looking at again with a fresh lens. The thing I just talked about with no fallback, shoot, and charge being one of the major downsides of Big Knights. Iconoclast has 1 CP, advance and charge, fallback and charge. advance to shoot, fall back and shoot. 1 CP, do whatever the fuck you want mobility wise, basically. Your big knights can do those things for 1 CP in Iconoclast. And you also have dramatically cheaper demons, basically. You have action units, you have screens. You know, in the pressure meta that we're in, where a lot of folks are just like running power armor bodies around, it's really nice to just have 20 morons to throw forward and be like, chew on this for a turn while my abominants light you up. That's really nice. And then yeah, no, it's just good. I think Iconoclast is worth looking at again. None of the detachments, I read them and I'm like, this is no play, right? There was a lot of actually, I won't say that, but yeah, I there's no detachment in the book that I look at and I'm like, this is bad. This is actually just not worth even looking at in the first place. I think everything has some fun play, and they might not all be like cream of the crop competitive, but I think they're all cool, thematic, and have something to explore, which is just awesome.
Hell yeah, dude. I think it's a great codex. I'm excited to see what you can come up with for it. Okay.
Immediate 14 war dogs.
Go to hell. Cool. Okay, so we've heard from all three of us talk about one thing. We had several other things on the agenda. We are 2 hours and 26 minutes in, and we still need to cover listener questions.
Classic.
Anything
Warhammer
else
podcast.
that people are itching to talk about before we just kind of pivot to that and work our way out?
I think we're good. I think we covered a lot of the stuff we're excited about.
Yep.
Fantastic. Fortunately, a lot of these questions we also happen to answer because in a shocking term events, people wanted to hear the things that we wanted to talk about. The Corp asked about Chaos Knights, Lord of Dread, Infernal Lance, Hound Pack. I think you talked about all those things. Luke wants me to talk about tunnel snakes. I've talked extensively about tunnel snakes. Yes, on a scale of 1 to Slytherin, how much do you like the new tunnel snake detachment? I'm a Gryffindor, but big fan. Actual question we haven't answered yet here comes from Nick A. And he asks us of Lucas, what are your thoughts on Orks for an 8-man with GW terrain?
So I think they have a much better place in WTC terrain because Warhorse is so much stronger on it. On GW, you're going to have a really hard time staging. I think there's a couple of things you can do. You can, I think you're playing Warhorde. At this point, Tactical Brigade. If you want to run like a general all-rounder that can maybe get some greens and kind of tie some matchups, you can run Tactical Brigade. But it's just worse than other options that are out there in other factions, unfortunately. So you're playing Warhorde. I think you want to run some more resilient things. I honestly, on GW terrain, like a Gaskell unit with 6 Meganobs ingressing, just like being a huge fucking McProblem that your opponent has to deal with. And yeah, it's kind of annoying that it can't charge through walls, but it can, still appear and then try to run around them with the water and use +2 advance and charge, go around the wall itself. It makes really good use out of -1 to wound. It's just kind of like annoying to remove. If you don't want to invest that much in one spot, you can run battle wagons instead of trucks. I've seen some fun builds that I like with like 2 battle wagons and 2 trucks and just trying to be tough more than elite. Sorry, tough more than MSU, which is okay. So I would still play Warhorde, but maybe just make it a little bit more resilient and less squishy, even if it's at the cost of some flexibility. But yeah, you're trying to play Warhorde good stuff.
Makes sense. Luke G asked to echo Innes in the main show. When are you going to do a stat rep with him, Tyler? Since you're in the same time zone, love your guys' content. 2 clarifications. Number 1, Innes, I do listen to the fucking main show. I love you guys. You make great stuff. How dare you accuse me of not doing that? I did hear this complaint. Number 2, we don't live in the same time zone. Freaking idiot. I'm an hour ahead of him. That being said, absolutely we'll make it happen. Innes knows where to find me, and I know where to find him. Maybe this weekend, if he's got some time, we'll figure something out. It's a little bit awkward right now because we're both in WTC prep mode, so we'll kind of like hand wave play some lists that are, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, a little bit different. But we'll make it happen. Absolutely, we'll get Innes on there.
I mean, that's what we're doing, dude. You and me.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But like, with with you at least, I'm like, hey, here's what the actual, here's what the actual thing is here. The changes to make it more staff appropriate. Within us, it's like, yeah, man, this is the best list, of course. Anyway, and then last question here comes in from Pierce. And again, if you want to ask questions of us, you can throw them in the chat here. If you super chat, we will absolutely cover them. If you regular chat, we'll cover them if we have time. Also, if you're in the Patreon Discord, ask questions in the threads that pop up there. We try to put them up well ahead of advance. This only went up a couple hours before the show, but every question there will at the very least get looked at and answered if we didn't cover it in the show. Okay. Pierce asks, any tips for someone restarting GSC after a long absence? Pierce, I'm not sure if you mean like you don't have a collection, or if you mean you have a collection, you just haven't played and you want to get back in the swing. Maybe you've been playing something else for a while. So I'll answer those things kind of separately. If you don't have a collection, now's probably a pretty solid time to get one secondhand and or convert stuff. GSC is a wildly expensive army to collect, and I definitely recommend figuring out wherever you can pick up savings where you can. As someone working on an AdMech Rusted Claw army, Bladed Cog, not Rusted Claw, it's an AdMech Bladed Cog army right now, like working out the math, GSC bits and models are so expensive, so there's a lot there. But fortunately, now that things are box locked, they're a little bit less expensive to grab, but think about what cool conversions you might want to do that could save you a good bit of cash down the line. Acolytes and Metamorphs in particular, those boxes come with just a ton more bits than you need. Make sure you're getting max value out of them. Okay, talking about actually like learning how to play the army if you've been like playing something else for a while. Hosts right now is just the best GSC, it just is. Outlander's a ton of fun. We put up the Sarep with that recently, by the way. Check out that Sarep. Tons of fun, really cool game. It's Pariah, but like the changes aren't that significant between the two, so still super relevant. Tons of fun in that one. So first of all, check out the stat reps. I've got one with Host, got one with Outlander. You should watch those. Listen to his stuff that he talks about it as well. But the Host is probably the best, and then I think Outlander is probably the second best, and then Xenocreed. Sure. Don't listen to the Xenocreed people. They don't know what they're talking about. I love you, Danny. Yeah. If you want to play a Host, you need to adjust your expectations and get very comfortable with damage being on the shaky side, and focus on positioning and thinking 1 to 2 turns ahead. The hard part of playing Hosts is that you don't have uppy downy, so you need to deploy every unit not only with thinking about what it's going to do, but also who it's going to charge, or if it's going to go for a charge, and also where it's going to go next turn, walking there on foot, because your opponent's probably not going to shoot at him if you haven't engineered that in some way. Think about those things. Shoot me a DM to learn how to put bytes in units. I need to put up a video about this at some point. I've had so many coaching clients who don't know how to do this correctly. No matter how many times I explain it, I need like diagrams or something. So check that out. Yeah, I mean, coaching is available if you want some more or one-on-one stuff, but definitely get practice on those things. I would not recommend jumping right into Outlander if you haven't touched GSC very much, because the damage is anemic and it is a lot of hoops to jump through. But if Host seems miserable and you don't mind losing a couple of games trying to figure it out, it's a ton of fun. I love that detachment. It is one of my favorites of the edition, for just as how much nonsense you can get up to with it. So definitely, if you're looking for something a little bit more out of the ordinary, check that one out as well.
Thematic masterpiece too. Host.
Yeah, absolutely. Super thematic. We did get a super chat that I didn't bring up earlier from that one guy who threw us a $1.99 and to put Quins are an army into the universe. If you say so, buddy. Harlequins are busted or bad, and currently they're bad, and I'm very, very okay with that. Oh, I know one other question we got from Pius here that I think we have time to answer. I should have brought this up. We're talking about world leaders. What do you think about world leader terminators, Lucas?
I'm torn. They do provide that rapid ingress unit I was talking about. They are not free to kill, unlike 8-bound, 3 8-bound, right? For more points functionally. But there's some anti-synergy with how their data sheet ability works. And the problem is, without anger on rerolls and the +1 to hit when they're under starting, they just don't really hit that hard, unfortunately. 10-2-2 is not a profile you're like fiending for in World Eaters. Everything in your army is like middling strength, middling AP, 2 damage. So I'm not really like, ooh, I can't wait to fork over points for fucking power fists. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Unfortunately, they're not that great. Maybe they'll be like a resilience 3-up armor or like 3 wound spam build going forward. But the reality situation is everyone is gearing up to kill power armor. With T-Sun's Death Guard, World Leader, CSM, Space Brains all being good. So being an expensive power armor body that's relatively slow and has relatively poor output is just probably not a good place to be.
Super valid. Alrighty. Ooh, okay. 2.5 hours in. We're back. Obviously, we're going to have a lot more stuff to talk about over the next couple of weeks. Lucas and I are going to be filming a bunch of stat reps. Hopefully, Anis will get it on some of them as well. So look forward to those. Obviously, check out the main show over at youtube.com/statcheck, or wherever you get your podcasts, to listen to Anis, Anthony, Curie, and Nathan, and whoever else is around sometimes. Maybe Cliff will be on again at some point. Yap about out numbers for 2 minutes and then yell at each other for a couple hours. It's wonderful. As I mentioned earlier, we do have the Patreon Discord if you want to keep the conversation going, or coaching available if you want some more one-on-one attention. Do check the links in the description. Some of them have been updated. We got some new codes for some of our sponsors. Big shout out to Red Dragon Games, as always, who are our primary sponsor, but also to the rest of the groups there. Saltire Games, IMS, Wayland Yutani, and J15 Games, all of whom have discounts for patrons down below. Highly recommend their stuff. Of course, we are Stat Check at the end of the day. We are here to pedal the dashboard. So check that out if you haven't been there. We do finally have BCP integration re-upped. So everything will be back on track now. There was like a month or so there where stats weren't up to date because there was API issues. They've all been fixed. Everything's great again. Everything's beautiful. Nothing hurts. Check it all out. Okay, we did it. We'll be back in the near future to talk about more stuff. Do you guys have any tournaments in June?
Just like an order FET.
Nothing big.
There's been a fucking drought up here for 2 months, and it drives me up a wall.
Gotcha. Are you guys going to Tacoma?
No, that's USA practice weekend.
Oh, you're going to Orlando for that, man?
Yes, sir.
Man,
Yeah.
I could be there.
There's
Sounds
a
awesome.
local.
You're closer than me, motherfucker. Make it happen.
That's not. It's
That's
like a 5-hour flight for both of us.
That's true. My ears just exploded. Oh my god, that was so loud.
Anyway, I have to. You're not. I don't have that kind of money right now. Sorry. I really wish I could. But
No, it's okay.
anyway, with that all being said and done, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I've been Tyler,
I've been Nick.
I'm still Lucas.
and we'll catch you next time for the. Oh my gosh, I've lost my place. We'll catch you next time for some more nonsense. I've got a couple ideas for some more silly games we could play if there's nothing else that we want to do in the next week or so. We could have some fun. We'll figure something out. There's Warhammer to play. Go win some games. We'll see you at WTC. TAC signing off.